We're taught that rejection is the end of the story, that when someone discards you, when they look at your broken body and declare you worthless, you're supposed to disappear quietly into the shadows. Fairy tales promise us that true love conquers all, that mates are destined, that the bond between souls cannot be severed by something as mundane as biology. But here's what they don't tell you in those pretty stories. Sometimes your mate, the one person the universe supposedly chose for you, will stand before an entire pack and announce that your womb is a graveyard, that your body is a betrayal, that you are less than nothing because you cannot give him the one thing that matters. And when that happens, when the bond snaps like a brittle bone, and you feel your soul hemorrhaging in ways that should kill you but don't, you learn something the fairy tales never mention. The cruelest part isn't the rejection itself. It's the invitation that comes 3 years later, the embossed cardstock that arrives at your door with his scent still clinging to it, pine and arrogance, and the particular musk of an alpha who has gotten everything he ever wanted. The elegant script that cordially invites you to witness his triumph, the presentation ceremony for his 4 newborn pups, his heirs, his legacy, everything you couldn't give him, delivered by the woman who could. Most people would burn that invitation. Most people would recognize it for what it is. A blade disguised as courtesy, one final twist of the knife to make sure you understand that your exile was deserved, that his cruelty was justified, that you were always the problem. But I am not most people. My name is Ruth Waldrop, and I was the disgrace of the Silverpaw Pack, the alpha's mate, who couldn't shift, couldn't conceive, couldn't fulfill the most basic requirements of her position. For 2 years, I endured the pitying looks and the whispered conversations that stopped when I entered a room. I smiled through the helpful suggestions about fertility treatments and ancient rituals. I pretended not to notice when Damien, my mate, my alpha, my everything, began to look at me with something worse than hatred, disappointment. When he rejected me in front of the entire pack council, I didn't fight it. What would have been the point? He was right. After all, I was barren, broken, a genetic dead end in a world where bloodlines are everything, and an alpha without heirs is an alpha without a future. I, Damien Silverpaw, alpha of the Silverpaw Pack, reject you, Ruth Waldrop, as my mate and Luna. The words had felt like acid in my veins, dissolving the bond that had once been the only thing that made sense in my life. I'd stood there in my formal gown, the one I'd worn to our mating ceremony 2 years earlier, and felt something inside me die. Not my wolf. I'd never had one to lose. Just the part of me that had believed I deserved to exist. My father, beta of the pack, and always the politician, had smoothed things over. Damien would take a new mate, someone fertile and appropriate. I would accept a generous settlement and leave pack lands quietly. No drama, no ugliness. Just a quiet erasure, as if I'd never existed at all. I'd taken the money and vanished into human territory, to a city where no one knew what I'd been or what I'd lost. I got a small apartment above a bookstore. I learned to sleep without the phantom warmth of a mate bond. I taught myself to stop flinching every time I saw a pregnant woman. I survived. And then, 3 years later, the invitation arrived. Alpha Damien Silverpaw and Luna Rebecca Fairmont cordially invite you to the presentation ceremony of their children, Aiden, Alara, Finn, and Isla Silverpaw, 4 heirs of the Silverpaw Pack. 4 pups, not just 1 but 4, a perfect litter, 2 boys, 2 girls, a genetic jackpot that would secure the Silverpaw bloodline for generations. The kind of blessing that alphas dream about and that makes neighboring packs envious. Everything I couldn't give him, multiplied by 4. The invitation didn't include a personal note. It didn't need to. The message was clear. Look what I have now. Look what you could never be. Come and witness your own inadequacy made flesh. I should have thrown it away. I should have laughed at the pathetic power play and gone on with my quiet life. Instead, I called my landlady and told her I'd be gone for a week. I packed a bag, and I booked a car to take me back to Packlands, back to the place that had chewed me up and spit me out, back to face the man who had destroyed me. Because Damien had made one critical mistake in his little revenge plot. He assumed I was still the broken girl he'd rejected. The one who'd accepted every insult, every disappointment, every casual cruelty because I believed I deserved it. The one who'd left pack lands with her tail between her legs, grateful just to escape with her life. He didn't know that 3 years of exile had transformed me in ways that had nothing to do with shifting or bloodlines or the wolf I'd never have. He didn't know about the 4 children who called me mother now, not from my womb, but from my choice. 4 powerful young shifters who'd been discarded by their birth packs for reasons that had nothing to do with their worth, and everything to do with politics and prejudice, and the same casual cruelty that had nearly destroyed me. Orphans, outcasts, unwanted. Until I wanted them. He didn't know that each of those children carried alpha blood in their veins, stronger, older, and more pure than his own lineage could claim. That I'd spent 3 years not wallowing in self-pity, but building something that should have been impossible. A family forged not by biology or fate, but by deliberate, defiant choice. And he certainly didn't know that when I walked into his precious ceremony, I wouldn't be walking in alone. The car pulls up to the boundary of Silverpaw territory as the sun begins its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and blood. I can feel the wards shimmer as we cross them, that particular tingle of pack magic recognizing an outsider. Once upon a time, these wards would have recognized me as Luna. Now they register me as a threat. Good. In the back seat, 4 pairs of eyes watch me with varying degrees of concern and anticipation. "Are you sure about this, Mom?" The question comes from Regina, my oldest at 15. His dark eyes, the color of obsidian, the marker of the ancient nightshade bloodline, study me with an intensity that would make most adults uncomfortable. He's already over 6 feet tall, his alpha presence so strong that he has to actively suppress it to avoid triggering challenges from weaker wolves. I meet his gaze in the rearview mirror and smile. "Are you?" "Hell yes," says Lyric, 12 years old and absolutely feral with anticipation. Her copper hair seems to glow in the fading light, and her amber eyes, gold crest bloodline, another ancient line, gleam with mischief. "I want to see this asshole's face when we walk in." "Language," I say mildly, but my heart isn't in the reprimand. "She's not wrong though," adds Ezra, 13, and always the quiet observer. His silver eyes, moonborn bloodline, the rarest of all track, the landscape passing by the window. He invited you to humiliate you. He's going to get something else entirely. The youngest, 9-year-old Thalia, says nothing. She simply reaches forward from her booster seat and squeezes my shoulder with one small hand. Her touch carries heat, literally. Emberfell bloodline, fire wolves, nearly extinct now, hunted almost to elimination 2 generations ago. My children, not from my body, but from my heart. 4 alpha heirs indeed, just not the ones Damien was expecting. The car pulls up to the pack house, and my breath catches despite my best efforts to remain calm. I haven't been here in 3 years, but nothing has changed. The same sprawling mansion with its stone facade and soaring windows. The same manicured gardens. The same fountain in the circular driveway with its carved wolves frozen in an eternal hunt. This was going to be my home. I'd walked these halls as Luna for 2 years, had planned to raise my children here, had imagined growing old in these rooms. Then it became my prison, then my past. Now, it's just a building beautiful and cold and full of people who cast me aside without a second thought. "Mom?" Regina's voice pulls me back to the present. "We can leave. We don't owe these people anything." I turn to look at my children, my real children, the ones I chose, and who chose me back. Regina with his fierce protectiveness, Lyric with her wild courage, Ezra with his quiet wisdom, Thalia with her gentle fire. "No," I say softly, "we don't owe them anything. But I owe myself this. I need to walk back into this place not as the woman they broke, but as the woman I became after. Then let's go remind them what they lost," Lyric says with a grin that's all teeth. We step out of the car as one unit, and I feel it immediately, the weight of attention swinging our way. Guests are arriving for the ceremony, parking their expensive cars and adjusting their formal attire. Conversations stop mid-sentence as people recognize me. There's Stella, who used to be my closest friend, until the rejection made me too uncomfortable to be around. There's Beta Marcus. No. Wait, he's retired now. His son Jacob has taken over the position. There's old Mrs. Rainier, who'd once told me with tears in her eyes that she was sure I'd conceive any day now, as if her hope could somehow repair my broken body. They all stare. At me. At the 4 children flanking me like an honor guard. At the way those children move with the unmistakable grace of dominant wolves, young still, but powerful in ways that make the adults instinctively give us space. I'm wearing a dress I commissioned specifically for this occasion. Midnight blue silk that fits like a second skin, with a neckline that dips low enough to be daring without crossing into inappropriate. My dark hair, once kept long because Damien preferred it that way, is now cut short in a sleek bob that brushes my jawline. I'm wearing heels that add 3 inches to my height and make my legs look endless. I look nothing like the broken girl who left here 3 years ago. I look like someone who won. Chapter 1. The Gauntlet. The pack house doors stand open like a mouth waiting to swallow me whole. I pause at the bottom of the stone steps, and for just a moment, I allow myself to feel the full weight of what I'm about to do. My heart hammers against my ribs, not from fear, but from the sheer audacity of returning to the place that declared me worthless. Every instinct I developed during my 2 years as Luna screams at me to turn around, to protect myself from the inevitable judgment and cruelty. But I'm not here to protect myself anymore. Mom. Thalia's small hand slips into mine, her palm fever warm as always. She looks up at me with those startling green eyes, so much trust in that gaze, so much faith that I'll keep her safe even as we walk into the lion's den. I can feel your heartbeat from here. I squeeze her hand gently. Good. That means I'm alive. That means you're nervous, Ezra corrects, materializing at my other side. His silver eyes catch the light from the torches flanking the entrance, making them glow like molten metal. It's okay to be nervous. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing the scary thing anyway. Lyric finishes, practically vibrating with excitement as she bounces up the first step. Can we please go in now? I'm dying to see this guy who was stupid enough to throw you away. Regina brings up the rear, his presence a solid wall of protection at my back. At 15, he already understands pack dynamics better than wolves twice his age. He's been an alpha since the day he was born. I'd seen it in him the moment the Nightshade pack dumped him at a human orphanage, declaring him too aggressive at age 8. Too aggressive, as if an alpha pup could be anything else. Stay close, he murmurs, his voice already deepening into the rumble of an adult male. And remember, we're not here to start a fight, just to finish one if necessary, Lyric adds cheerfully. Lyric. What? I'm just being honest. Despite everything, I feel a smile tug at my lips. This is what Damien and his pack could never understand. Family isn't about blood or bonds or the alignment of fate. It's about showing up for each other, especially when the world tells you that you don't belong together. I straighten my spine, lift my chin, and climb the steps. The entry hall is exactly as I remember it, soaring ceilings with exposed beams, a massive chandelier dripping with crystals, walls lined with portraits of past alphas dating back 6 generations. The air smells of pine and furniture polish, and the particular musk of too many dominant wolves in close proximity. The ceremony won't start for another 30 minutes, which means this is cocktail hour. The time for social posturing and careful conversations, for alliances to be reinforced and grievances to be subtly aired. I used to dread these events, always aware that I was being judged and found wanting. Now I walk through the crowd like a queen returning from exile. The effect is immediate and gratifying. Conversations don't just pause, they die mid-word, as heads turn to track my progress. I feel their eyes cataloging everything. My dress, my hair, my confident stride, and most especially the 4 young wolves moving in formation around me. To pack wolves, the way we move together speaks volumes. We're not just a random group, we're a unit, a family, a pack unto ourselves. Ruth? The voice is female, shocked, and painfully familiar. Ruth Waldrop? Is that really you? I turn to find Stella frozen in place, a champagne flute halfway to her lips. She looks good, she always did. Blonde hair in perfect waves, designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, the kind of effortless beauty that comes from never having to doubt your place in the world. We'd been best friends once. She'd held me when I cried after each negative pregnancy test. She'd been the one to help me pick out my mating ceremony dress, had sworn nothing would ever come between us. Then Damien rejected me, and she'd sent a single text. "I'm so sorry, but I can't be associated with this situation. I hope you understand." I'd understood perfectly. "Hello, Stella." My voice is pleasant, neutral. "It's good to see you." She blinks rapidly, clearly thrown by my composure. We didn't think you'd actually come." When the invitation went out, everyone assumed it was just a formality, that you'd have the sense to. She trails off, apparently realizing that finishing that sentence won't end well. "The sense to stay away?" I supply helpfully. "To hide? To accept that I should be grateful for my exile and never dare show my face here again?" Stella flushes, her eyes darting to the children surrounding me. "I didn't mean." "Who are these?" "My children." The words come out firm and proud. "Regina, Lyric, Ezra, and Thalia. My family." I watch her do the math, confusion flickering across her face. "I'd left 3 years ago, definitively barren. There's no way these children, the oldest of whom is clearly in his mid-teens, came from my body. But they're also clearly not human companions or distant relatives. The way they stand, the way they watch her with the patient stillness of predators, marks them as wolves. Strong wolves. I don't understand," Stella says finally. "You don't need to." Regina's voice cuts through the tension like a blade. He steps forward slightly, not quite putting himself between us but making his position clear. "You need to step aside." The command in his voice is unmistakable and completely inappropriate coming from a teenage boy addressing an adult pack member. Stella's eyes widen in shock, and I feel rather than see several nearby conversations stop as wolves tune into the potential confrontation. This is the moment. The first real test. Stella could challenge Regina's disrespect. She could call for backup, could demand an apology, could make a scene that would establish the social hierarchy and put these outsider pups in their place. Instead, after a long moment where I can actually see her wolf assessing the threat level, she takes a small step backward. It's instinct. Her wolf recognizing something in Regina that supersedes social niceties and pack politics, recognizing that picking this fight would be a mistake. "Of course," she says, her voice slightly strained. "I should go find my mate. He'll want to know you're here. It's good to see you, Ruth. You look well." She retreats into the crowd, and I release a breath I didn't know I was holding. "Point to us," Lyric whispers, grinning like a feral cat. "This isn't a game," I remind her, but I can't quite suppress my own smile. We move deeper into the reception area, and I feel the crowd parting around us like water around a stone. Some of it is curiosity, who is this woman who dared to return, and who are these mysterious children? But some of it, I realize with a jolt of satisfaction, is wariness. They can sense what I brought with me, even if they can't quite identify it yet. We're approaching the main hall when I hear his voice, and my entire body goes rigid. Should be arriving any moment. Rebecca insisted we invite her, thought it would be a gracious gesture, show that there are no hard feelings. A pause, then a laugh, rich and confident, and utterly without remorse. "Though between you and me, I hope she has the dignity not to actually show up. It would be awkward for everyone." Damien. 3 years since I heard that voice. And my body still remembers it, still wants to respond to it. Even though the mate bond is long dead, and the man behind the voice proved himself unworthy of every tear I shed over him, I turn the corner. And there he is. Damien Silverpaw, alpha of the Silverpaw pack, looking exactly as I remember, and somehow diminished at the same time. He's tall and broad-shouldered, with the kind of classically handsome features that photograph well. Strong jaw, high cheekbones. Dark hair swept back from his forehead. He's wearing an expensive suit tailored to show off his physique, and he's holding court with a small group of visiting alphas, all of them radiating power and self-satisfaction. He hasn't seen me yet, hasn't sensed me, which tells me exactly how little I registered in his awareness even when we were mated. To him, I was always just an accessory, a role to be filled. When I failed at that role, I became invisible, but he senses my children. I watch his head come up sharply, nostrils flaring as his wolf reacts to the presence of multiple alpha-blooded youngsters in his territory. His eyes scan the crowd, searching for the source of the disturbance, and then they land on me. For a moment, just a heartbeat, I see genuine shock flash across his face. Then it's gone, replaced by something that might be confusion, or might be anger, or might be some combination of the two. He excuses himself from his conversation and starts walking toward me, his stride purposeful, and his alpha presence pushing out before him like a wave. It's a dominance play. Automatic, instinctive. Remind the weaker wolf of their place in the hierarchy. Except, I don't have a wolf to be cowed by his display. And my children aren't weak. Regina moves before I can stop him, stepping forward to intercept Damien's approach. The two of them face each other, a 15-year-old boy and a 32-year-old alpha, and the air between them crackles with tension. That's close enough, Regina says quietly. Damien stares at him, and I can practically see the calculations running behind his eyes. This boy is a stranger. A child. Has no right to address an alpha in his own territory with anything less than complete deference. But this boy also radiates power that makes Damien's wolf hesitate. I'm sorry, Damien says, his voice carefully controlled. I don't believe we've been introduced. I'm Alpha Damien Silverpaw, and this is my pack house. You are? Regina Waldrop. He doesn't offer his hand, doesn't bow his head, just stands there, solid and immovable, claiming my last name like a shield. Ruth's son, the silence that descends, is deafening. I watch Damien's face cycle through emotions, confusion, disbelief, calculation, and finally something that might be fury. His eyes cut to me, standing behind my wall of children, and I see the question there. How? I smile. It's not a kind smile. Hello, Damien, I say, my voice carrying across the suddenly silent room. Thank you for the invitation. We're so looking forward to meeting your new family. His jaw clenches. Ruth, this is unexpected, is it? You did invite me. I didn't expect you to bring. He gestures vaguely at my children, clearly at a loss for words. My family? Why wouldn't I bring my family to a family event? I tilt my head, all innocence. Isn't that what this is? A celebration of family? Someone in the crowd makes a sound that might be a suppressed laugh. Damien's eyes narrow. Perhaps we should speak privately, he says, his voice tight. I don't think so. I step forward, moving through the protective circle of my children until I'm standing face to face with the man who destroyed me. I have to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. He's still got 8 inches on me, even in heels, but I don't feel small. Anything you need to say to me, you can say here. After all, you had no problem making our separation public. Why should our reunion be private? His hands clench into fists at his sides. You're causing a scene. I'm accepting your invitation. If that's causing a scene, perhaps you shouldn't have invited me, Rebecca thought. He stops himself, but it's too late. Ah, yes, Rebecca. I let the name hang in the air between us. Your new mate, the one who could give you what I couldn't. I'm looking forward to meeting her. Ruth. Mom. Ezra's voice cuts through the tension, quiet but commanding. People are staring. He's right. The entire room has fallen silent, everyone watching our confrontation with the kind of horrified fascination usually reserved for natural disasters. I can see phones being discreetly pointed in our direction. This will be all over Pack social media within the hour. Good. Let them see. Let them all see that I came back, that I'm not broken, that I brought something with me that makes their alpha nervous. You're right, I say, taking a deliberate step back. We should find our seats. The ceremony will be starting soon, won't it? I'm sure you need to prepare. Damien looks like he wants to say something else, probably wants to throw us out, but can't without making himself look weak or cruel or both. Instead, he just nods stiffly. The ceremony begins in 20 minutes. Seats are assigned. You'll find your name cards in the hall. He turns on his heel and stalks away, his shoulders rigid with suppressed anger. The moment he's gone, the room exhales collectively. Conversations restart, but now they're all about us. I can hear the whispers, feel the weight of judgment and curiosity and speculation. That went well, Lyric says brightly. Thalia giggles, the sound bright and clear, and completely at odds with the tension still humming through the air. Come on, I say, gathering my children close. Let's find our seats, and remember, no matter what happens in there, we stay together. We're family. That's all that matters. All that matters, they echo back, and the phrase settles over us like armor. We move toward the main hall, and I don't let myself look back at Damien or any of the people who once called me friend. I don't let myself feel the old hurt trying to resurface. I'm not that woman anymore. I'm the woman who survived, the woman who built a family from the wreckage of her broken dreams, the woman who walked back into hell wearing designer heels and brought an army with her. And this ceremony, this display meant to mock me, is about to become something else entirely. Chapter 2. The Ceremony of Thorns. The main hall has been transformed into something out of a fever dream. White roses cascade from every available surface, wrapped around pillars, dripping from chandeliers, arranged in towering centerpieces on each table. The scent is overwhelming, cloying, meant to evoke purity and new beginnings. 4 bassinets stand on the raised platform at the front of the room, each draped in silver silk embroidered with the silver paw crest. Behind them, 2 ornate chairs thrones. Really wait for the Alpha and his new Luna. It's excessive, ostentatious, the kind of display that screams "look at what I have" to everyone within a 50-mile radius. I scan the room and quickly locate our assigned seats. Back row, far left corner, as far from the platform as physically possible while still technically being in the room. Of course. Subtle. Regina mutters, following my gaze. It's fine, I say, even though it's not fine, even though the placement is clearly designed to emphasize my irrelevance. Better view of the exits. We make our way to our assigned table, and I'm not surprised to find it populated with other social outcasts, a couple who'd been demoted from their pack positions after a financial scandal, an elderly widow whose alpha son had died without heirs, and a teenager who smells faintly of rogue, probably recently accepted back into pack protection after some transgression. They all look up as we approach, their expressions ranging from curiosity to poorly concealed pity. Ruth Waldrop? The widow, Mrs. Yaren, I remember now, peers at me through thick glasses. My dear, I didn't expect to see you here. How brave of you to come. Brave. As if attending an event I was explicitly invited to requires courage rather than basic social convention. Mrs. Yaren, I acknowledge with a polite nod, taking my seat. My children arrange themselves around me like a protective formation. Regina on my right, Ezra on my left, with Lyric and Thalia filling in the remaining spaces. It's good to see you again. And who are these lovely young people? Her eyes dart between my children, clearly trying to puzzle out their origins. My children, Regina, Lyric, Ezra, and Thalia. I don't elaborate, don't explain. Let them wonder. Your children. Mrs. Yaren's confusion is palpable, but before she can probe further, a hush falls over the room. Damien has entered through the side door, and beside him, Rebecca Fairmont is exactly what I expected and somehow worse. She's beautiful in the way that comes from generations of careful breeding, delicate features, perfect bone structure, honey blonde hair that falls in soft waves past her shoulders. She's wearing a gown that probably cost more than my car, pale pink silk that makes her look ethereal and untouchable. And cradled in her arms is a bundle of white blankets, a tiny fist visible at the edge. One of the pups. The crowd rises as one, the traditional gesture of respect for the Alpha and Luna. I rise too, because refusing would be a direct challenge, but I don't drop my gaze, don't show deference. Just stand and watch as they make their way to the platform. 3 pack members follow behind them, each carrying one of the other pups. The procession is choreographed for maximum impact. See how fertile she is. See how blessed this union is. See everything you're not witnessing with the barren former Luna. They reach the platform, and Damien raises his hand for silence. The room obeys instantly. Thank you all for coming. His voice booms across the hall, amplified by the acoustics and his alpha authority. Today marks a historic moment for the Silver Paw Pack. After years of uncertainty, the goddess has blessed us with not 1, not 2, but 4 healthy heirs. A cheer rises from the crowd. I remain silent, my hands clasped in front of me. My mate, Luna Rebecca, has given me the greatest gift any alpha could ask for. His eyes find hers, and the look between them is genuine enough to make something twist in my chest. She has secured our future, and proven that the goddess provides for those who are worthy. Worthy. The word lands like a slap. I feel my children tense around me, Regina's hand moving instinctively toward my shoulder. Don't, I whisper. Not yet. Damien continues his speech, talking about bloodlines and destiny and the strength of the Silverpaw legacy. Rebecca stands beside him, radiant and serene, the perfect picture of lunahood. The 4 pups are presented one by one. Aiden, the firstborn son. Elara, the elder daughter. Finn, the younger son, and Isla, the baby of the litter. Each presentation is met with applause and traditional blessings. The pups are beautiful, I'll give them that. Healthy and strong, with the dark hair of their father, and what I assume will be their mother's delicate features once they grow into them. Everything I couldn't give him. The ceremony moves into the formal blessing portion, where visiting alphas and high-ranking pack members approach the platform to offer gifts and words of wisdom for the pups. It's tedious and self-congratulatory, each alpha trying to outdo the previous one with increasingly elaborate promises of alliance and support. I watch it all with detached interest, like I'm observing a play rather than living through it. Then Damien does something I don't expect. Before we conclude the formal portion of the ceremony, he says, his voice taking on a different quality, I want to acknowledge someone who is here today, someone whose presence demonstrates the magnanimity and forgiveness that defines the Silverpaw pack. My blood runs cold. Ruth Waldrop, my former mate, has chosen to attend this ceremony, despite our difficult history. His eyes find mine across the crowded room, and there's something in that gaze that makes my skin crawl. I want to publicly thank her for her grace in accepting that some things are simply not meant to be, that the goddess's plans sometimes require us to move forward separately. The room is silent now, every eye turning to find me in the back corner. Ruth, he continues, his voice dripping with false compassion. I hope you can find joy in witnessing what the goddess has provided for those who are compatible, and I hope you've found peace in your new life, wherever that may have taken you. It's masterful, really. He's positioned himself as the magnanimous alpha who bears no ill will, while simultaneously reminding everyone that I was rejected because I was incompatible, defective, wrong, and he's put me on the spot, expecting me to respond with equal grace and humility, to thank him for inviting me to my own humiliation, to validate his narrative that my rejection was simply the goddess's will, rather than his cruelty. Every instinct I used to have screams at me to lower my head, to murmur something appropriate and inoffensive, to make myself small and forgettable, but I'm not that woman anymore. I rise slowly, and the room's attention sharpens to a razor's edge. I can feel my children rising with me, a united front. Thank you, Alpha Damien, I say, and my voice carries clearly despite the distance. You're right that the goddess's plans can surprise us. 3 years ago, I thought my life was over. I thought being cast out from this pack was the end of my story. I pause, let the words settle. I was wrong. It was the beginning. I gesture to my children, and they stand straighter, letting their presence register fully for the first time, letting the crowd really see them not as mysterious accessories, but as young wolves of considerable power. The goddess gave me something more valuable than I ever imagined. Not biological children, you're correct that my body failed in that regard. But she gave me these 4 souls who needed a mother as much as I needed them. Regina, Lyric, Ezra, and Thalia. Cast out by their birth packs for reasons that had nothing to do with their worth, and everything to do with politics and prejudice. I see Damien's expression shift, confusion creeping in at the edges. Each of them carries alpha blood. Ancient bloodlines that predate the Silverpaw line by generations. Nightshade, Goldcrest, Moonborn, Emberfell. I let those names hang in the air, watch recognition dawn on the faces of the older wolves who know their history. Lines that were thought extinct or irrelevant, but they're not extinct. They're standing right here. Murmurs ripple through the crowd now, wolves turning to each other with whispered questions and speculation. So thank you, Damien, for the invitation. Thank you for the reminder that family isn't about biology or fate, or even the mate bond. It's about choice. It's about showing up for each other when the world says you don't belong together. It's about building something from the wreckage of broken dreams. I smile. And it's genuine this time. Congratulations on your 4 beautiful pups. I hope they bring you all the joy and security you sought. And I hope they never have to learn what it feels like to be declared unworthy. I sit down. The silence that follows is profound. Nobody seems to know how to react. Do they applaud? Do they condemn me for the subtle jab at the end? Do they acknowledge that I just claimed to be raising 4 alpha-blooded children from ancient lines? Damien's face has gone carefully blank, but I can see the fury in his eyes. This wasn't part of his script. I was supposed to be grateful and diminished, not poised and proud. Rebecca leans over to whisper something in his ear, her perfect composure cracking slightly. He shakes his head minutely and turns back to the crowd. Yes, well, he says, his voice strained. We all find our paths eventually. Now, let us continue with the blessing ceremony. But the energy in the room has shifted. People aren't paying attention to the blessings anymore. They're craning their necks to look at us, to study my children, to puzzle out the implications of what I just revealed. Ancient bloodlines. Not 1, but 4. All under the care of the rejected Barren former Luna. Mom. Thalia whispers, her small hand finding mine under the table. Was that okay? What you said. I squeeze her hand gently. That was perfect. He looks mad, Lyric observes with satisfaction. He looks confused, Ezra corrects. He didn't expect you to fight back. Nobody expects her to fight back, Regina says, his voice filled with quiet pride. That's her advantage. The ceremony drags on for another 30 minutes. More blessings, more speeches, more performances of pack unity and strength. Through it all, I sit calmly in my corner seat, my children around me, and I refuse to look away. This is my victory, small as it may be. I came back to the place that broke me, and I didn't break again. I stood in front of my ex-mate and his perfect new family, and I claimed my own worth. Finally, mercifully, the formal portion concludes. Damien announces that refreshments will be served in the garden, and the crowd begins to disperse. Some head toward the exits, others drift toward the refreshment tables, and a concerning number start moving in our direction. Incoming, Regina mutters. The first to reach us is surprisingly not a hostile pack member, but rather one of the visiting alphas, an older man with silver threading through his dark hair and eyes that have seen too much. Ruth Waldrop? He extends his hand. Alpha Theodore of the Clearwater Pack. I don't believe we've met, but I knew your grandfather. I shake his hand cautiously. My grandfather? Matthias Waldrop. He and I served together on the regional council before his death. His eyes move to my children with obvious interest. If even half of what you said is true about these youngsters' bloodlines, then I'm very interested in speaking with you further. The Nightshade line alone is none of your concern. Regina interrupts, his voice polite but firm. Theodore raises an eyebrow, but doesn't seem offended. Fair enough. But the offer stands. The regional council would very much like to verify these claims. Ancient bloodlines aren't just historically significant. They carry certain rights and protections under pack law. This is news to me, but I keep my expression neutral. I'll consider it. Please do. He produces a business card from his jacket pocket. My contact information. Call any time. He departs, and immediately 2 more wolves take his place, a young couple I don't recognize. We heard what you said, the woman begins, her voice hushed and urgent. About building family by choice. We've been trying for years. 5 miscarriages. The pack healer says my body just can't carry to term. Her mate puts a protective arm around her shoulders. We've been considering adoption, but the pack council says it's not traditional. That raising another wolf's pup weakens the bloodline. My heart aches for them. I remember that desperation, that feeling of being broken beyond repair. Adoption doesn't weaken anything, I say firmly. It strengthens. Love strengthens. Choice strengthens. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The woman's eyes well with tears. Thank you. We needed to hear that. They move away, and the flood truly begins. One after another, wolves approach our table, some curious, some hostile, some desperately seeking validation for their own non-traditional families. Each conversation is a small battle, a chance to either reinforce or undermine the narrative I've built. Through it all, Damien watches from the platform. Rebecca has taken the pups to a back room, leaving him alone to supervise the social portion of the event. His expression is unreadable, but his tension is palpable. He doesn't approach me, doesn't try to continue our confrontation or assert his authority, and that, more than anything, tells me that my words landed. After an hour of conversations and questions and barely veiled threats from pack members loyal to Damien, I'm exhausted. My feet hurt from the heels, my face aches from maintaining my composure, and I desperately want to leave this place and never return. "Can we go now?" Thalia asks quietly. "I don't like it here. Everyone smells angry." "Soon, I promise. Just a little longer." But before we can make our exit, Rebecca appears. She's alone, having left the pups in someone else's care. Up close, she's even more beautiful porcelain skin, eyes the color of warm honey, a grace that seems innate rather than practiced. She approaches our table with measured steps, her expression carefully neutral. "Ruth," she says, her voice soft and cultured. "May I speak with you? Privately?" Every protective instinct I have screams danger. This is Damien's mate, the woman who gave him everything I couldn't. There's no universe where this conversation ends well. But I'm also curious. What could she possibly have to say to me? "My children stay with me," I say firmly. "Of course." She glances at my children, and something flickers across her face. Is that envy? "I wouldn't ask you to separate from your family." We move to a quiet corner of the garden, away from the main crowd. The evening air is cool against my overheated skin, and the sound of the fountain provides a buffer against eavesdropping. Rebecca takes a breath, seeming to gather herself. "I want to apologize. That's not what I expected." "For what?" "For the invitation. For this whole ceremony." She looks back toward the hall, and her expression is complicated. Damien said it was a gesture of goodwill, of showing there were no hard feelings. But I'm not stupid. I know what this really was. A power play. A way to grind salt in old wounds. I study her carefully. "Then why did you go along with it?" "Because I'm his mate. Because I'm Luna of this pack. Because sometimes we do things for the good of the partnership even when we disagree." She meets my eyes directly. "But I want you to know that I'm not cruel. I don't take pleasure in your pain." "How magnanimous," I say dryly. She flinches slightly. "You have every right to hate me." "I don't hate you, Rebecca. I don't know you well enough to hate you." I soften my tone slightly. "You're not the one who rejected me. You're not the one who declared me worthless in front of the entire pack. You're just the one who happened to be able to give him what he wanted. Children," she says quietly. "Heirs," I correct. Let's not pretend it's the same thing. We stand in silence for a moment. Two women connected only by the man who loved one of us enough and the other not at all. "Your children," Rebecca says finally. "The things you said about their bloodlines. Is it true?" "Every word." "How did you find them?" I consider not answering, but something in her genuine curiosity makes me relent. "I didn't find them. They found me. Or maybe we found each other. One by one. Over 3 years. Each of them discarded by their packs for reasons that had nothing to do with their worth. I took them in. I gave them a home. And they gave me a reason to keep living." Rebecca's hand drifts unconsciously to her stomach, and I see it then the truth she's not saying. "You're pregnant again," I say. She startles. "How did you? The way you're standing. The way you keep touching your abdomen. The scent." I can't actually smell pregnancy. No wolf can this early, but her body language is unmistakable. "How far along?" 6 weeks. We haven't announced it yet." She looks almost guilty. "The 4 pups were from my first pregnancy. This one was unexpected. 5 children total. The goddess really did bless her. I should feel bitter about this. Should let the old jealousy rise up and poison this moment. But I'm surprised to find that I don't. Her fertility doesn't negate my worth anymore. Her blessings don't diminish my own. "Congratulations," I say, and mean it. Rebecca's eyes shine with unshed tears. "Thank you. That's more generous than I deserve." "You deserve to be happy, Rebecca. You deserve to have a family that loves you and children who thrive. Just because my story with Damien ended badly doesn't mean yours has to. He doesn't talk about you, she says suddenly. Ever. I've tried to ask, tried to understand what happened between you. But he shuts down completely. All I know is what the pack gossip tells me, that you couldn't shift, couldn't conceive, and that the rejection was painful but necessary. That's the sanitized version, I say. The truth is messier, more cruel. But it doesn't matter anymore. I'm not that person anymore, and he's not my problem. He's been different today, she admits. Agitated, angry. Seeing you here, seeing your children, it's shaken something in him. Good. He should be shaken. He invited me here to humiliate me, to prove that he made the right choice. Instead, I proved that his rejection was the best thing that ever happened to me. Rebecca actually smiles at that. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone broken, someone bitter, someone who would make a scene and prove all of Damien's decisions right. She shakes her head. But you're none of those things. You're strong, elegant, clearly an excellent mother. And those children of yours, they love you fiercely. I can see it in how they watch you, how they position themselves to protect you. They're everything. I say simply. Everything I thought I'd lost when Damien rejected me. Family. Purpose. Love that isn't conditional on my body performing correctly. I envy that, Rebecca says quietly. The unconditional part. Sometimes I wonder if Damien would still want me if I stopped being able to give him children. And there it is, the crack in the perfect facade. Then you should leave, I say bluntly. Before you find out the answer to that question. She laughs, but it's hollow. I can't. I'm Luna. I have 4 pups, soon to be 5. My entire life is built here. So was mine. I left anyway. You had no choice. I had every choice. I could have fought the rejection. I could have demanded my rights as Luna, forced him to keep me in position even without the mate bond. I could have made his life hell. I meet her eyes. But I chose to leave with dignity. I chose to build something new rather than cling to something dead. And that choice saved my life. Rebecca is quiet for a long moment, processing my words. Finally, she says, I should get back. The pups will need to feed soon, of course. She starts to walk away, then pauses. Ruth, I hope you find happiness. Real, lasting happiness. The kind that doesn't depend on anyone else's validation. I already have, I tell her truthfully, but thank you. She disappears back into the crowd, leaving me alone in the garden with my thoughts and my children, who had been lurking just close enough to intervene if necessary. That was weird, Lyric pronounces. That was sad, Thalia corrects. She's trapped. She's made her choices, Ezra says pragmatically. Just like Mom made hers. Regina doesn't say anything, just takes my hand and squeezes gently. Come on, I say to all of them. Let's go home. We make our way back through the hall, heading for the exit. A few more people try to stop us, more questions about bloodlines, more curiosity about my children, but I deflect politely and keep moving. We're almost to the door when Damien appears, blocking our path. Leaving so soon? He asks, his voice deceptively casual. The ceremony is over. We've paid our respects. There's nothing left to keep us here. We need to talk. About those claims you made regarding your children. They're not claims. They're facts. Ancient bloodlines carry legal implications. Rights to territory, seats on regional councils, access to restricted resources. His eyes narrow. If you're lying about this to make yourself look important, I'm not lying. Regina steps forward, putting himself between me and Damien once again. And you have no authority over us. We're not members of your pack. We don't answer to you. You're on my territory. As invited guests, I interrupt. You invited me, Damien. You opened this door. Don't act surprised when I walk through it on my own terms. We stare at each other, and I see the moment he realizes he's lost this battle. Whatever humiliation he'd planned for me tonight backfired spectacularly. Instead of proving my insignificance, he's given me a platform to announce my resurrection. This isn't over, he says quietly. Yes, I tell him. It is. It was over 3 years ago when you rejected me. Everything since then has just been you refusing to accept that you don't get to define my worth anymore. I step around him, my children following, and we walk out of the Silverpaw pack house for what I hope is the last time. The night air is sweet with freedom. My car is waiting where we left it, and as we pile in, I feel the tension finally start to drain from my shoulders. You did it, Regina says from the back seat. You went back, you faced him, and you won. We won, I correct. All of us together. As we drive away from Packlands, I take one last look in the rearview mirror. The pack house is lit up like a beacon, still full of celebration and self-congratulation, but I'm leaving it behind. For good this time, because I finally learned the truth that took me 3 years and 4 adopted children to understand. The opposite of belonging isn't exile. It's freedom. Chapter 3. The Unraveling. The drive home takes 3 hours, and for the first hour, none of us speak. We're all processing what just happened, the confrontation, the ceremony, the way we walked into enemy territory and emerged not just unscathed, but victorious. The adrenaline is slowly draining from my system, leaving behind a bone-deep exhaustion that makes my hands shake slightly on the steering wheel. It's Thalia who breaks the silence. Mom? Are we going to be in trouble? I glance at her in the rearview mirror. She's curled up in her booster seat, her green eyes wide with concern. At 9 years old, she's the youngest and the most sensitive to emotional undercurrents. She can read a room better than wolves 3 times her age. What kind of trouble, sweetheart? That man, the alpha. He was angry when we left. Really angry. I could feel it. She hugs herself, generating enough body heat that I can see shimmer waves rising from her skin. A nervous tell. What if he comes after us? He won't, Regina says firmly from the back seat. He has no legal right to bother us. We're not part of his pack, we're not on his territory anymore, and we didn't break any laws. But he knows about us now. Ezra adds quietly. About our bloodlines. That information has value. And dangerous people do dangerous things when they see value. He's not wrong. By announcing my children's heritage in a room full of territorial alphas and power-hungry pack politicians, I've essentially painted targets on their backs. Ancient bloodlines mean ancient rights, access to neutral territories, votes on the regional council, claims to resources that have been hoarded by modern packs for generations. I should have thought of that before I opened my mouth. I'll protect you, I say, injecting confidence into my voice that I don't entirely feel. All of you. That's my job as your mother, and I've never failed at it yet. You couldn't protect yourself from him though, Lyric points out, not unkindly. Just stating facts. From what he did to you. How are you supposed to protect us from an entire system? It's a fair question. A brutal question. The kind of question that would have destroyed me 3 years ago. You're right, I say after a moment. I couldn't protect myself from Damien's rejection. I couldn't stop the pack from casting me out. I couldn't force my body to work the way it was supposed to. I meet each of their eyes in the mirror. But that's because I was trying to survive in a system that was designed to destroy people like me. People who don't fit the mold. So what changed? Regina asks. I stopped trying to survive in their system. I built my own. I take a breath. When I found each of you, when you found me, I didn't try to convince your birth packs to take you back. I didn't try to fit you into their broken structures. I just took you home. I gave you a place where being different wasn't a weakness, where your bloodlines and your gifts weren't threats to be managed, but strengths to be celebrated. You made us a pack, Thalia says softly. I made us a family, I correct, which is stronger than any pack. Packs have laws and hierarchies and support systems, Ezra points out. Families just have love. Love doesn't stop legal challenges or territorial disputes. No, I agree. But it gives us a reason to fight them. We lapse back into silence, but it's more comfortable now. Less charged with fear, and more charged with determination. By the time we pull up to our building, a converted warehouse in the arts district of the city, split into loft apartments, it's nearly midnight. The kids are dragging with exhaustion, even Lyric, who usually has energy to spare. Bed. I order as we trudge up the stairs to our third-floor unit. All of you. We'll process everything tomorrow. But Mom, Lyric starts. Bed. Now. I'll make pancakes in the morning, and we'll talk about everything then. I promise. They grumble but obey, disappearing into their respective rooms. We have a 3-bedroom loft. Regina has his own room as the oldest. The girls share another, and Ezra has claimed the converted storage space as his sanctuary. I sleep on a pull-out couch in the living area, which is fine. I've never needed much space. Once their doors are closed and I hear the sounds of nighttime routines, teeth brushing, water running, the creak of bed frames, I finally let myself collapse onto the couch. My phone buzzes. 17 missed calls. 43 text messages. I scroll through them with a sense of detachment. Stella. Oh my God, Ruth, what did you do? Everyone is talking about it. Call me. Mrs. Yaren. My dear, you were magnificent tonight. But please be careful. You've made some powerful people very uncomfortable. Unknown number. This is Alpha Theodore Clearwater. I'm serious about that conversation. Call me at your earliest convenience. Unknown number. If you think flaunting those bastard pups gives you any legitimacy, you're more delusional than I thought. DS. That last one makes my blood run cold. Damien found my number not hard, since I'd kept it when I left Packlands, and decided to send me a message that reveals exactly how much I got under his skin. Bastard pups. As if my children are somehow less legitimate than his because they weren't born from a mate bond. As if love and choice and deliberate family building means nothing compared to biological accident. I delete the message without responding. He wants a reaction, wants to draw me into a fight where he has the advantage. I won't give him that satisfaction. But there's one message that makes me pause. Rebecca, thank you for tonight. For being honest. For showing me what strength looks like. I won't forget it. I stare at that message for a long time, trying to parse what it means. Is it genuine gratitude? A subtle warning? An olive branch from someone who's beginning to see the cracks in her own gilded cage? I don't respond to that one either. Some messages are better left as they are ambiguous and open to interpretation. I'm about to put my phone away when it rings. Unknown number, but the area code is local. Against my better judgment, I answer. Ruth Waldrop. The voice on the other end is female, crisp and professional. My name is Lydia Thornwhisper. I'm an attorney specializing in pack law and bloodline rights. I was at the ceremony tonight, and I'd very much like to speak with you about your children's heritage. It's midnight, I point out. I'm aware. I apologize for the late hour, but this matter is time-sensitive. Once word spreads, and it's already spreading about the bloodlines you're claiming, there will be legal challenges. Territory disputes. Attempts to separate you from your children on the grounds that you're human-born, and therefore not qualified to raise alpha-blooded pups. My heart stops. They can't do that. They can try. And without proper legal protection and documented proof of bloodline, they might succeed. She pauses. I'd like to help you prevent that. Pro bono, if necessary, because what you're doing building a family by choice, protecting discarded pups that matters, and I won't let them take it away from you. Why? I ask bluntly. Why would you help me for free? Because 20 years ago, I was one of those discarded pups, cast out by the Riverstone pack for being born without a wolf. I aged into my shift at 16 late bloomer, but by then, my birth family wanted nothing to do with me. I survived on my own, put myself through law school, and now I use my position to help others like us. Others who don't fit the mold. Others like us. The phrase settles over me like a warm blanket. Okay, I say. Let's meet. But not tonight. Tomorrow. Name the time and place. My office, 10 a.m. I'll text you the address. She pauses. Bring documentation if you have it. Birth certificates, medical records, anything that proves your children's lineage. The more ammunition we have, the better. I'll bring what I have. Good. And Ruth, be careful. You've kicked a hornet's nest tonight. Powerful people are going to come after you, and they won't all be as obvious as your ex-mate. She hangs up before I can respond. I sit in the darkness of my living room, my phone still clutched in my hand, and let the weight of what I've done finally settle over me. I went to that ceremony to prove I'd survived, to show Damien that his rejection hadn't broken me, to walk into that place with my head held high and my children at my side. I succeeded. But in succeeding, I've exposed us all to dangers I didn't fully anticipate. Legal challenges, territory disputes, powerful wolves who see my children as resources to be controlled or threats to be eliminated. I wanted to protect them. Instead, I might have painted targets on all of our backs. Mom? I startle and turn to find Regina standing in the hallway, wearing sleep pants and no shirt, his dark eyes concerned in the dim light. I thought you were asleep, I say. I was, but I heard you on the phone. He pads over and sits beside me on the couch, his shoulder pressing against mine. Who was that? A lawyer. She wants to help us protect our legal rights to stay together, which means someone's going to try to separate us. Maybe. Probably. I lean my head against his shoulder, drawing comfort from his solid presence. I'm sorry, Regina. I didn't think it through. I just wanted to show them all that we were okay, that we'd built something good. I didn't think about the consequences. Don't apologize for being proud of us, he says firmly. Don't apologize for standing up to him. You did exactly what you needed to do, and if people come after us because of it, we'll handle it, together. You're 15. I say softly. You shouldn't have to handle any of this. I'm alpha-blooded from the Nightshade line, he counters. I was born to handle exactly this. Fighting, protecting, standing my ground even when the odds are stacked against me. He shifts to look at me directly. You saved me, Mom. When the Nightshade pack dumped me at that orphanage because they couldn't control me, because I was too aggressive and too dominant to fit into their hierarchy, I thought my life was over. I was 8 years old and completely convinced that I was broken and wrong and worthless. Regina. But then you showed up. This small human woman with no wolf and no pack and no reason to care about some aggressive alpha pup who'd been thrown away. And you looked at me and said, "You're not broken. You're just strong. And strong isn't the same as wrong." His voice cracks slightly. You gave me a home, a family, a reason to believe I wasn't a monster. So if protecting you and this family means facing down territorial alphas and legal challenges and whatever else comes, then that's what I'll do. That's what we'll all do. I pull him into a hug, this boy becoming man who's already so much stronger and braver than anyone I've ever known. When did you get so wise? I ask, my voice thick with emotion. I learned from the best, he says simply. We sit like that for a while, mother and son, drawing strength from each other the way we've done countless times before. Eventually, I convince him to go back to bed, promising that I'll sleep soon too. But once he's gone, I stay on the couch, staring at the ceiling and thinking about everything that's coming. Legal battles, territory disputes, powerful wolves who want to use my children or destroy them. And Damien, somewhere out there in his pack house, furious that I dared to show my face, and even more furious that I proved I didn't need him to thrive. 3 years ago, when he rejected me, I thought my story was ending. Now I'm beginning to understand that it was just the prologue. The real story, the one about a woman who built a family from the wreckage of her broken dreams and then had to fight the entire world to keep it, is just beginning. The next morning dawns gray and cold, threatening rain. I wake the kids at 8 and make good on my promise of pancakes, though the mood around our small dining table is subdued. Everyone's processing yesterday, turning over the implications in their minds. So we're meeting with a lawyer, Lyric says, drowning her pancakes in enough syrup to make my teeth hurt just watching. That means we're expecting trouble. That means we're preparing for trouble. I correct. There's a difference. Not much of one, Ezra mutters into his orange juice. At 9:45, we pile into the car again. Lydia Thornwhisper's office is in the business district, a sleek glass building that houses several law firms. Her suite is on the 12th floor. And the receptionist, a young woman with sharp eyes and the telltale scent of wolf, waves us through immediately. She's expecting you. Conference room B, down the hall on your right. The conference room is all glass and chrome, with a stunning view of the city below. Lydia stands as we enter, and I'm struck immediately by her presence. She's small, barely 5 feet tall, but she carries herself like someone much larger. Her hair is iron gray despite looking only 40 or so, pulled back in a severe bun. Her eyes are the pale blue of glacier ice, and when she shakes my hand, her grip is firm and professional. Ruth, thank you for coming. Her gaze moves to my children, assessing them with the practiced eye of someone who knows what to look for. And these must be the famous alpha heirs. Regina, Lyric, Ezra, and Thalia. I introduce them, my children. Sit, please, we have a lot to discuss. She waits until we're all settled, then pulls out a tablet and begins pulling up documents. I spent most of last night doing research based on what I heard at the ceremony. The bloodlines you claimed, Nightshade, Goldcrest, Moonborn, and Emberfell, are all recognized under the Ancient Bloodline Protection Act of 1847. I've never heard of that, I admit. Most people haven't. It's old law, enacted back when the different bloodlines were at war with each other and threatening to destroy the entire supernatural community. The act established certain protections and rights for bloodlines deemed ancient and essential to the genetic diversity of the species. She looks up at us. All 4 of the lines your children carry are on that list. What does that mean for us? Regina asks. It means several things. First, your bloodlines give you automatic protected status. No pack can force you to join against your will. No alpha can claim authority over you without your explicit consent. You have the right to claim sanctuary in neutral territories, and the right to appeal directly to the regional council if threatened. That sounds good, Lyric says cautiously. So what's the bad news? The bad news is that these protections only apply if we can prove your bloodlines are genuine. And proving bloodline gets complicated when the original packs have disowned you. Lydia taps her tablet, pulling up what looks like genealogical charts. I need medical records, DNA tests, any documentation from your birth packs. They destroyed my records, Regina interrupts. When the Nightshade pack dumped me, they wiped my existence from their official documents, said I was never born to them. I was 8. I remember them telling me that I was a mistake they were correcting. Lydia's expression hardens. That's illegal, but unfortunately not uncommon. What about the rest of you? The Goldcrest pack kept my birth certificate, but claimed my mother was a rogue who seduced one of their males, Lyric says. They denied any official connection to me. Moonborn pack said I was too dangerous to keep records on, Ezra adds quietly. Something about my eyes marking me as cursed by the old magic. They performed a formal banishment ritual when I was 10. The Emberfell pack didn't disown me, Thalia says, her voice small. They just gave up. After the hunters came and killed most of the adults, there weren't enough left to raise all the pups. They chose the ones with the strongest fire abilities and sent the rest of us to human foster care. I was 6. Nobody wanted to adopt a kid who occasionally caught things on fire when she had nightmares. The silence that follows is heavy with shared pain. These are my children. These are the souls that the pack system, the same system that declared me unworthy, decided to discard like garbage. Okay, Lydia says, her voice gentler now. We work with what we have. No official records, but we have the evidence of your abilities. Regina, you have the Nightshade eyes and the dominance markers. Lyric, your shifting ability and coloring match Goldcrest descriptions. Ezra, those silver eyes are unmistakable Moonborn traits. And Thalia, fire manipulation is exclusive to Emberfell. Is that enough? I ask. It should be, but we'll need witness testimony from neutral parties who can verify these traits. Preferably other ancient bloodline carriers or historians who specialize in bloodline identification. She makes some notes on her tablet. I have contacts. It'll take a few weeks to arrange, but we can build a case. A few weeks, I repeat. And in the meantime? In the meantime, you stay alert. Document any threats or harassment. Don't accept invitations to pack territories without a neutral witness present. And most importantly, she fixes me with a stern look. Don't engage with your ex-mate. He's going to try to provoke you. Let him be the aggressor. That only helps our case. What case? Ezra asks. I thought we were just protecting our right to stay together. We are. But if Damien Silverpaw or anyone else tries to legally challenge your custody of these children, We're going to countersue for everything. Reparations for emotional damages, recognition of bloodline rights, possibly even territory claims if we can establish that your children have ancestral rights to lands currently held by modern packs. I blink. We could claim territory? Ancient bloodlines held territories before the modern pack system existed. If we can prove lineage and demonstrate that those territories were taken illegally when your children's ancestors were displaced or killed, then yes, we could claim them back. She smiles, and it's sharp as a blade. Sometimes the best defense is a very aggressive offense. We spend another hour going over details, what documents I have, what we need, what the timeline looks like. By the time we leave Lydia's office, my head is spinning with information and possibilities. So basically, Lyric says as we walk to the car, we're going to war. Legal war, I correct. Still war, Regina says. Just fought with paperwork instead of claws. I can do paperwork, Thalia says decisively. I'm very good at organizing things. Despite everything, I laugh. Yes, you are, sweetheart. We're halfway home when my phone rings. It's a number I don't recognize, but the area code is from Packlands. I answer cautiously. Hello? Ruth Waldrop? The voice is male, older, with the gravelly quality of someone who spent decades giving orders. This is Alpha Cornelius Ashford of the Iron Ridge Pack. I was at the ceremony yesterday, and I'd very much like to discuss your son. My blood runs cold. Which son? Regina. The Nightshade bloodline. He pauses. I knew his grandfather. Served with him on the regional council before the Nightshade Pack imploded. If your boy truly carries that line, he has a right to claim the Nightshade ancestral seat. He's 15, I say carefully. Old enough to assert bloodline rights. Old enough to make alliances that could protect him and you from those who would see you separated. His tone shifts, becoming almost paternal. I'm not your enemy, Ruth. I'm offering help, but only if you're smart enough to accept it. I'll think about it, I say. Don't think too long. The wolves are circling, and you're bleeding in the water. Accept help while it's being offered freely, or be forced to accept it on less favorable terms later. He hangs up. I stare at my phone, and in the rearview mirror, I see Regina staring back at me. What did he want? My son asks. To use you, I say honestly. To turn your bloodline into political leverage. Are you going to let him? I think about that question. Think about everything Lydia said. About territory claims and bloodline rights and the way power works in the pack world. No, I say finally. But I'm going to learn the game well enough that we never have to rely on anyone else's protection. We're going to become strong enough that when wolves like Alpha Cornelius come calling, they're asking for our help, instead of offering theirs. How? Ezra asks. I meet my children's eyes in the mirror, Regina with his obsidian gaze, Lyric with her amber fire, Ezra with his silver wisdom, Thalia with her green determination. We do exactly what Lydia suggested. We prove your bloodlines. We claim your rights. We take back what was stolen from your ancestors and build something that can't be taken away. A pack? Thalia asks hopefully. Better than a pack, I tell her. A legacy. Chapter 4. Ghosts and Choices. The weeks following the ceremony blur together in a haze of legal meetings, bloodline verification tests, and an escalating series of opportunities that are really just veiled threats. Alpha Cornelius calls 3 more times, each message more insistent than the last. Other alphas start reaching out, offering alliances, proposing matches between their eligible offspring and my children, suggesting that proper pack guidance would benefit young wolves of such prestigious bloodlines. Everyone wants a piece of what we have. Nobody cares about who we are. I decline every offer. Politely at first, then with increasing firmness as they refuse to take no for an answer. Lydia works tirelessly, building our case from fragments and testimonies. She tracks down a retired Goldcrest elder, who confirms Lyric's coloring and shifting pattern match the ancient line. She finds a moonborn historian who practically weeps when he sees Ezra's eyes, calling them the truest silver I've seen in 40 years. She even locates one of the surviving Emberfell adults, a woman named Sage, who'd been on a scouting mission when the hunters attacked, who identifies Thalia. Immediately, and provides written testimony of her lineage. Regina's bloodline proves the hardest to verify, since the Nightshade pack was so thorough in destroying records. But Lydia discovers that Regina's grandfather, a wolf named Matthias Nightshade, had registered his bloodline with the regional council before the pack's collapse. The genetic markers are on file, and when we submit Regina's DNA for comparison, the match is undeniable. My son carries one of the purest Nightshade bloodlines in existence, which makes him valuable and dangerous, and a target. We need to talk about security, Lydia says during our 4th meeting, 3 weeks after the ceremony. Her office has become our second home. The conference room a war room where we plan our defense. You're living in an unsecured human apartment building with no wards, no pack protection, and 4 children who are now confirmed carriers of extinct or near-extinct bloodlines. That's not sustainable. We can't afford pack protection, I point out. And the only packs offering it want something in return that I'm not willing to give. Then we create our own protection. She pulls up a map on her tablet. There are neutral territories, lands held in trust by the regional council that aren't claimed by any specific pack. They're meant to serve as safe havens for rogues, displaced wolves, and those seeking sanctuary. You could claim one. How? Regina asks. He's been attending most of our meetings, his presence both protective and practical. At 15, he understands pack politics better than I ever will. Ancient bloodline holders have first rights to neutral territory claims, provided they can demonstrate need and ability to maintain the land. Lydia zooms in on a section of forest about 2 hours north of the city. This parcel has been vacant for 15 years. 300 acres, fully warded, with a main house and several outbuildings. It was held by the Silverstream pack until they dissolved after a succession crisis. Why hasn't anyone else claimed it? I ask suspiciously. Because it requires a bloodline claim to activate the wards. Modern packs can't access it, their genetics are too diluted. But your children could. She looks at each of them in turn. 4 ancient bloodlines. 4 cardinal points. You could create a ward structure stronger than anything seen in generations. That sounds expensive, I say. The land itself is free, held in trust for bloodline claimants. You'd need to pay for maintenance, utilities, property taxes. But there's a trust fund attached to ancient bloodline properties. Not huge, but enough to cover basics while you get established. She slides a folder across the table. I took the liberty of pulling the financials. You could do this, Ruth. You could give your family a real home, protected and permanent. I stare at the folder, my heart pounding. A real home. Not a rented loft in a city that barely tolerates supernatural presence. Not a temporary refuge where we're always one eviction notice away from disaster. A permanent sanctuary. What's the catch? Ezra asks quietly. Lydia grimaces. Once you claim the territory and activate the wards, you become an official bloodline holding. That puts you on the regional council's radar, which is good for legal protection, but bad for anonymity. Every pack in the region will know exactly where you are and what you have. So we trade hiding for protection, Regina says. Essentially, yes. I look at my children, reading the mix of hope and fear in their faces. They want this, want a real home, want to stop running and hiding and pretending we're less than we are. But they're also scared of what visibility might bring. We'll need to see it first, I say finally. Before we make any decisions, I want to walk the land, make sure it's right for us. Of course. Lydia stands, gathering her materials. I'll arrange a visit for this weekend. In the meantime, stay alert. I've heard rumors that Damien is planning something. He's been meeting with other alphas, making alliances. Whatever he's planning, it's not going to be friendly. That night, I dream of the forest. I'm walking through towering pines, their needles soft under my bare feet. The air smells of earth and rain and something ancient, that particular scent of land that remembers what it was before humans and packs carved it up into territories and property lines. I'm not alone. 4 shadows move with me, one ahead, scouting, 1 behind, guarding, 2 at my sides, keeping pace. My children, rendered in dream logic as protective spirits, rather than flesh and blood. And ahead, through the trees, I see it. A house. It's old but solid, built from stone and timber in the style of pack houses from centuries past. 2 stories, with wide porches and large windows that seem to watch me approach. The door stands open, an invitation or a warning. I step inside, and the house exhales. It's the only way to describe it. The building itself seems to breathe, to settle, to recognize something in me or my children that allows it to relax. The wards, I realize dimly, the wards are waking up, tasting our blood through dream connection, deciding if we're worthy. 4 bloodlines, a voice whispers not out loud, but in my bones. 4 corners, 4 protections, the old magic remembers. I wake gasping, my heart racing, the scent of pine still clinging to my skin despite being in my city apartment. The dream felt like more than a dream. It felt like a promise, or a prophecy. Saturday arrives cold and gray, with the kind of biting wind that promises winter is coming early this year. We pile into Lydia's car, a sensible SUV with enough room for all of us plus legal files, and make the 2-hour drive north. The kids are subdued, each processing their own thoughts about what we might find. The city gives way to suburbs, then to rural farmland, then finally to dense forest. The road becomes gravel, then dirt, winding through trees that seem to grow thicker and older the further we go. Here, Lydia says finally, pulling onto what barely qualifies as a driveway. This is the boundary. She wasn't kidding about the wards. I can't see them. I'm human-born, ward-blind, but I can feel them. A pressure against my skin, a whisper of other that makes my hindbrain scream turn back. Not safe, not yours. But my children feel something different. Oh, Thalia breathes, pressing her hands against the car window. Oh, it's beautiful. I can feel it, Lyric says, her eyes gone distant. The land, it's singing? Not singing, Ezra corrects softly. Calling, it's calling us. Regina says nothing, but his jaw is set in that way that means he's feeling too much to put into words. We get out of the car, and the moment my children's feet touch the ground, something shifts. The wards don't drop, that would be dangerous, leaving the land unprotected, but they soften. They recognize the bloodline standing within their bounds, and they welcome us. This way, Lydia says, leading us down the overgrown path. The house emerges from the trees like something out of a fairy tale. It's exactly as I saw it in my dream, stone and timber. 2 stories, wide porches. The windows are intact despite 15 years of abandonment, and the door, though weathered, hangs straight on its hinges. The wards preserve it, Lydia explains, seeing my surprise. As long as they're active, the house can't deteriorate beyond a certain point. Nature can't reclaim what magic protects. She produces an old-fashioned iron key and fits it into the lock. The door swings open with a creak that sounds almost welcoming. Inside, the house is frozen in time. Furniture still arranged in living spaces, books on shelves, photographs on walls showing wolves I don't recognize, probably the Silverstream pack before they dissolved. Dust covers everything, and there's a musty smell of disuse, but no rot, no decay, just 15 years of patient waiting. 4 bedrooms upstairs, Lydia says, her voice echoing in the empty space. Plus the master on the main floor. Full kitchen, 2 bathrooms, a study, and a basement that was used for pack meetings. The outbuildings include a greenhouse, a workshop, and what looks like it was once a training facility. The kids spread out, exploring with the kind of cautious excitement that comes from wanting something too much to believe it's real. I hear their footsteps above me, voices calling to each other as they discover rooms and views and possibilities. I stay in what must have been the living room, staring at a photograph of a family, parents, and 3 young pups, all smiling at the camera with the kind of unself-conscious joy that comes from security and belonging. What happened to them? I ask quietly. The Silverstream pack? Succession crisis, Lydia says, coming to stand beside me. The alpha died without naming an heir. His 3 children all claimed the title, refused to submit to each other, and the pack tore itself apart in the resulting civil war. By the time the regional council intervened, there was nobody left to hold the territory. The survivors scattered to other packs or went rogue. That's horrible. That's what happens when pride and power matter more than family. She turns to look at me. You could prevent that. Build something here based on choice and love, rather than hierarchy and dominance. Create a new model. I'm one human woman with 4 adopted children, I point out. I'm not qualified to create new models for anything. You're a woman who built a family from the wreckage of a broken system, who raised 4 alpha-blooded pups that their birth packs threw away, and turned them into strong, healthy, emotionally secure young wolves. Who walked into your ex-mate's territory and proved that rejection isn't the end of the story. Lydia's expression is intense. You're exactly qualified, Ruth. The question is whether you're brave enough to try. Before I can respond, Thalia comes running down the stairs, her face flushed with excitement. Mom, you have to see upstairs. There's a room with windows on all 4 sides. Ezra says it was probably used for ceremonies, and another one with a fireplace in it that I can already tell will work with my fire, and the master bedroom has this huge bathroom with a tub big enough for 3 people. She stops, suddenly shy. I mean, if we took it, if we claimed it, would we, could we? I look at my youngest daughter, at the hope blazing in her green eyes, and I feel something shift in my chest. For 3 years, I've been surviving, moving from day to day, doing what needed to be done to keep my family together and safe. But surviving isn't the same as living. Surviving isn't the same as building something permanent and meaningful. Let me see the rest of the house, I say. Then we'll decide together, as a family. Thalia squeals and grabs my hand, dragging me toward the stairs. The other 3 materialize from various rooms, and we tour the 2nd floor as a unit looking into bedrooms that could be theirs, imagining furniture arrangements and paint colors, and all the small touches that turn a house into a home. The room Thalia mentioned, the one with 4 windows, takes my breath away. It's circular, built into what must be a tower I didn't notice from the outside. Each window faces a different cardinal direction: north, south, east, west. The floor is inlaid with a pattern I recognize from my research on ancient bloodline magic, a compass rose surrounded by symbols representing the elements. This is the ward chamber, Lydia says softly, appearing behind us, where the 4 bloodlines would gather to reinforce the protections. It hasn't been used in 15 years. The wards are running on residual power at this point. They'll fail within the next 5 years without renewal. How do we renew them? Regina asks. Each of you stands at a window corresponding to your bloodline's traditional direction: north for Nightshade, strength and shadow; east for Goldcrest, new beginnings and sun; south for Emberfell, fire and transformation; west for Moonborn, wisdom and the tide of change. She gestures to the compass rose. Then you channel power through your connection to the land. The wards read your intent and your bloodline, and they either accept you or reject you. What happens if they reject us? Lyric asks. They won't, Lydia says with absolute certainty. You're exactly what this land has been waiting for. We stand there in silence, the 5 of us plus Lydia, and I feel the weight of the decision pressing down on me. This house, this land, this possibility. It's everything I've wanted for my children: safety, permanence, a place to grow without fear, but it's also a declaration. A line drawn in the sand that says we exist. We matter. We're not hiding anymore. And declarations have consequences. I need to think about it, I say finally. Of course, Lydia says. Take your time, but not too much time. I've been contacted by 3 different packs this week, all asking about bloodline verification status. Once your children's lineages are officially confirmed, which will happen in about 2 weeks when the final reports come in, the pressure is going to intensify. Being here, warded and protected, would be a significant advantage. We finish the tour and pile back into the car for the drive home. The kids are quiet, each lost in their own thoughts about what we saw and what it might mean. I'm staring out the window, watching the trees blur past, when my phone buzzes. Unknown number. I know what you're planning. Claiming neutral territory. Playing at being important because you collected some abandoned pups with fancy bloodlines. It won't work. The regional council won't grant your claim. I'll make sure of it. DS. My hands clench around the phone. Mom? Ezra's voice is concerned. What's wrong? I show him the message, watch his silver eyes narrow as he reads it. How does he know? Lyric demands, reading over her brother's shoulder. Someone's feeding him information, Regina says grimly. Someone who knew we were looking at territories. Or he's just guessing, I say, though I don't believe it, trying to rattle us with vague threats. It's working, Thalia says quietly. She's right. My heart is racing, my mind spiraling through worst-case scenarios. What if Damien really can block our territorial claim? What if he has enough influence on the regional council to destroy this chance before we even try? What if I've given my children hope for something I can't actually deliver? Stop, Lydia says sharply from the driver's seat. Whatever you're thinking, stop. Damien Silverpaw is an alpha of a mid-sized pack with moderate regional influence. He's not all-powerful, and he's definitely not more powerful than 4 confirmed ancient bloodlines. He's scared, Ruth. That message is proof of it. Scared people lash out, make threats they can't back up, try to intimidate their opponents into surrendering before the fight even starts. So, what do? I ask. We call his bluff. We file the territorial claim. We activate those wards with your children's blood, and we dare him to try to take it away. She glances at me in the rearview mirror. Unless you're planning to let him intimidate you into giving up before you even try? No, I say, and I'm surprised by how firm my voice sounds. No, I'm done letting him dictate my choices. Good, Lydia smiles. Then let's go to war. That night, after the kids are in bed, I sit on my couch with my laptop and start researching everything I can find about territorial claims, ancient bloodline rights, and the political structure of the regional council. It's dense, boring material, legal documents and historical precedents and procedural requirements. But somewhere in all that bureaucratic language is the key to protecting my family. I'm 3 hours deep into a document about ward activation protocols when my phone rings. Rebecca. I consider not answering. Our last conversation at the ceremony was surprisingly genuine, but that doesn't mean we're friends. Doesn't mean I trust her. But curiosity wins out. Rebecca. I answer cautiously. Ruth. She sounds strained, stressed. I need to talk to you. In person. It's important. I don't think that's a good idea. Please. The word comes out almost desperate. It's about Damien. About what he's planning. You need to know. Every instinct I have screams this is a trap. A way to get me vulnerable, to gather information, to set me up for whatever Damien has planned. But there's something in Rebecca's voice, genuine fear, genuine urgency that makes me hesitate. Not alone, I say finally, and not on packlands, public place, during daylight, and I bring backup. Yes, fine, whatever you need. She takes a shaky breath. Tomorrow. That coffee shop on 5th Street, noon, I'll be there. She hangs up, and I'm left staring at my phone, wondering what the hell I just agreed to. And more importantly, wondering what Damien is planning that would make his own mate feel the need to warn me. Chapter 5. The Luna's Warning. The coffee shop on 5th Street is neutral territory by design, a human-owned establishment that caters to the business district, where supernatural politics are secondary to caffeine addiction and Wi-Fi access. It's also public enough that any violence would attract immediate attention, which is exactly why I chose it. I arrive 15 minutes early with Regina at my side. Lydia wanted to come, but I talked her out of it. A lawyer's presence would make this feel too formal, too adversarial. If Rebecca really does want to warn me about something, I need her to feel safe enough to speak freely, but I'm not stupid enough to come alone. Regina positions himself at a table near the window with clear sightlines to both entrances and my booth. He's wearing headphones but not actually listening to music, just maintaining the appearance of a teenager doing homework while actually serving as my security detail. At 15, he's better protection than most trained guards. Rebecca arrives exactly at noon, and I'm struck again by how fragile she looks. The radiant Luna from the ceremony has been replaced by someone hollow-eyed and exhausted. She's wearing designer clothes that hang slightly loose, as if she's lost weight recently. Her honey blonde hair is pulled back in a simple ponytail rather than the elaborate styling I remember. She looks like someone who hasn't slept in weeks. She spots me immediately and hurries over, sliding into the booth across from me with jerky, nervous movements. "Thank you for coming," she says, her voice low and urgent. "I wasn't sure you would." I almost didn't. I study her carefully. You look terrible, Rebecca. What's going on? She laughs, but there's no humor in it. That's one way to put it. She glances around, checking for eavesdroppers, then leans forward. Damien is planning to challenge your territorial claim. He's already filed a formal objection with the regional council. My stomach drops. On what grounds? Multiple. First, that you're human-born and therefore not qualified to hold bloodline territory. Second, that your children's bloodlines haven't been properly verified. He's claiming fraud. Third, that allowing a non-pack entity to claim neutral territory sets a dangerous precedent that undermines pack authority. She pulls out her phone and slides it across the table, showing me a document that makes my blood run cold. It's a formal legal challenge, stamped with the silver paw crest, and co-signed by 4 other alphas. He's building a coalition. I breathe. It gets worse. He's not just trying to block your claim, he's petitioning for custody review of your children. Rebecca's eyes are shining with unshed tears. He's arguing that 4 alpha-blooded pups from ancient lines are too valuable to be raised by a human woman with no pack support. That they need proper pack socialization and appropriate guidance from their own kind. The words hit me like physical blows. Custody review. They're going to try to take my children away from me. They can't do that, I say, but my voice lacks conviction. They can try. And with 5 alphas backing the petition, the regional council has to take it seriously. Rebecca reaches across the table, her hand hovering near mine but not quite touching. Ruth, I'm so sorry. I tried to talk him out of it. I told him it was cruel and unnecessary, that you weren't a threat to anyone. But he's obsessed. He sees your children's bloodlines as a personal insult, as if you found something valuable just to spite him. Why are you telling me this? I ask bluntly. You're his mate. You're Luna of his pack. Why risk his anger to warn me? Rebecca pulls her hand back, wrapping her arms around herself. Because I'm not blind to what he is anymore. What he's always been, but I was too desperate for security to see clearly. She takes a shaky breath. The pregnancy I told you about, the 5th pup. I lost it. Miscarriage at 8 weeks. Rebecca, I'm so sorry. Don't. I'm not looking for sympathy. Her voice hardens. Do you know what Damien said when I told him? Not, are you okay, or we'll try again, or anything remotely compassionate. He said, well, 4 heirs is sufficient anyway. No need to risk complications with another pregnancy. She meets my eyes, and the pain there is raw and terrible. I realized in that moment that he doesn't love me. He loves what I can produce. And the moment I'm not useful in that capacity anymore, I'll be just as disposable as you were. The coffee shop suddenly feels too warm, too close. I want to tell her she's wrong, that Damien isn't that calculating. But I can't, because I know exactly what she's describing, that moment when you realize the person you love sees you as a function rather than a person. So, you're warning me out of solidarity? I ask. I'm warning you because what he's planning is wrong. Those children chose you. You chose them. That matters more than blood or pack or any of the political bullshit that alphas use to justify their power plays. She glances toward Regina, who's watching us with barely concealed suspicion. And because I've seen the way your son looks at you, the way all of them look at you, that's real family, Ruth. That's love. And I won't be part of destroying it, even if it costs me everything. It might. I warn her. If Damien finds out you warned me, he won't. I'm very good at playing the devoted Luna when necessary. She straightens her shoulders, and I see a flash of steel beneath the fragile exterior. I'm not asking you to like me or trust me. I'm just giving you information so you can protect your family. Do with it what you will. She starts to slide out of the booth, but I stop her with a question. What will you do? If he's really that cold, that calculating, why stay? Rebecca's smile is sad and knowing. Because I have 4 pups who need their mother. Because leaving would mean giving up Luna status, and probably all access to my children. Because the mate bond, even without love, is still a chain that's incredibly difficult to break. She pauses. And because, unlike you, I'm not brave enough to walk away from security, even when that security is an illusion. She leaves before I can respond, disappearing into the lunch crowd with the practiced invisibility of someone who's learned to make themselves small. I sit in the booth for a long moment, processing everything she just told me. Then I pull out my phone and call Lydia. "We have a problem," I say when she answers. "A big one." 3 hours later, we're back in Lydia's conference room, me, Regina, and Lydia herself, who's been making phone calls and pulling legal documents at a pace that makes my head spin. "Okay," she says, spreading papers across the table like battle plans. "Here's what we're dealing with. Damien's challenge is legally sound, which is frustrating but not insurmountable. He's found legitimate procedural grounds to question the claim. Can we fight it?" Regina asks. "We can, but it's going to take time, probably 3 to 6 months, for the regional council to review all the evidence and testimony. And during that review period," she grimaces, "the custody petition is the real threat. It's not going through normal family court because supernatural children fall under PAC law jurisdiction. That means the regional council will appoint a review committee to assess whether Ruth is a suitable guardian for alpha-blooded pups." "That's insane," I say. "I've been raising them for 3 years. They're healthy, happy, well-adjusted. None of which matters if the committee decides that PAC socialization supersedes individual well-being." Lydia's expression is grim. "PAC law was written by alphas for alphas. It prioritizes bloodline preservation and proper hierarchical training over things like emotional bonds or chosen family. If they decide your children need traditional PAC structure, they can remove them from your custody and place them with appropriate PAC families." The room spins. I grip the edge of the table, fighting the wave of nausea that threatens to overwhelm me. "They'd split us up," Regina says, his voice hollow. 4 different bloodlines means 4 different PACs. "They'd separate us." "Most likely, yes," Lydia confirms. "Unless we can prove that splitting you would cause irreparable harm, and that Ruth's guardianship is not just adequate but superior to what any PAC could provide." "How do we prove that?" I ask desperately. "We build an ironclad case. Character witnesses, medical records showing your children's health and development under your care, psychological evaluations demonstrating strong family bonds, expert testimony about the value of chosen family versus biological imperative." She starts making notes on her tablet. "We also go on the offensive. If Damien wants to question your fitness as a guardian, we question the PAC system's fitness as a child-rearing model. We bring up the statistics on alpha pups abandoned by their birth PACs, and trust me, those numbers are not flattering. We argue that the system that discarded these children has no moral authority to reclaim them now that they're valuable. That's going to make us very unpopular with the PAC establishment," Regina points out. "Good. Let them be defensive for once." Lydia's smile is sharp. "But here's the thing, we need to move fast. The custody review can be initiated immediately, which means they could start the evaluation process within weeks. We need to claim that territory and activate those wards before they have a chance to physically separate you. Once you're established on protected land with active bloodline wards, removing your children becomes infinitely more complicated legally." "So we're racing the clock," I say. "Exactly, and we're probably going to lose if we play by their timeline." She looks at me intently. "Which is why I'm suggesting we accelerate everything. File the territorial claim tomorrow, complete the ward activation this weekend, force the regional council to deal with an established fact rather than a pending application." "Is that legal?" I ask. "It's aggressive, but yes, technically legal. Ancient bloodline holders have the right to claim abandoned territories under emergency provisions. And I think we can argue that a credible custody threat constitutes an emergency." I look at Regina, reading the fear and determination warring in his expression. "What do you think?" "I think we don't have a choice," he says. "We either take the risk and fight, or we wait around to be separated. I'd rather go down fighting." "The others need to weigh in," I say. "This affects all of them. They deserve a voice." "Agreed. But Ruth," Lydia's expression softens. "You need to prepare them for the possibility that we lose. That even with everything we do, the regional council might decide PAC law supersedes your custody rights. They need to know what we're risking." The thought of having that conversation with my children, with Lyric's fierce optimism and Ezra's quiet wisdom and Thalia's innocent trust, makes me want to vomit. But Lydia's right. They deserve the truth. That evening, I gather all 4 children in our small living room. They sit in various states of alertness. Regina already knows most of what I'm about to say, but the others can tell from my expression that something serious is coming. I tell them everything. About Rebecca's warning, about Damien's challenge, about the custody petition and what it could mean. The silence that follows is deafening. Finally, Lyric speaks, her voice small and scared in a way I've never heard from her. They could take us away from you? From each other? They could try, I say carefully. But we're not going to let that happen without a fight. What kind of fight? Ezra asks. Legal, physical? Legal, primarily. Lydia has a plan to claim the territory immediately and activate the wards this weekend. Once we're established on protected bloodline land, removing you becomes much more difficult. But not impossible, Thalia says quietly. They could still take us. I want to lie. Want to tell her that everything will be fine. That I'll protect them no matter what. That nobody can tear our family apart. But I've never lied to my children, and I'm not starting now. Yes, I admit. Even with everything we do, there's a chance the regional council could rule against us. Could decide that pack socialization is more important than our family bond. Could separate you and place you with different packs. I take a shaky breath. I need you all to understand what we're risking if we fight this. And I need you to decide if you want to take that risk, or if you'd rather make other arrangements. Other arrangements? Regina's voice is dangerous. Like what? Just surrender? Let them split us up without even trying? Like being proactive. Some packs have already reached out, offering to take all of you together. It wouldn't be with me, but you'd stay together. No. The word comes from all 4 of them simultaneously, overlapping and emphatic. Mom, no, Lyric says, her amber eyes blazing. We're not leaving you. We're not going to some pack that only wants us because of our bloodlines. We're fighting. Even if we lose? I ask. Even if fighting makes things worse? Even then, Ezra says firmly. Because at least we'll lose together. Having tried. That's better than giving up and wondering what might have been. Thalia climbs into my lap. She's getting too big for it, really. But she curls up against me like she used to when she first came to live with us at 6 years old. Small and scared, and convinced she'd set me on fire in her sleep. You saved us, she says quietly. All of us. When nobody else wanted us, when our own packs threw us away, you took us in and made us a family. We're not abandoning you just because someone says we should. I hold her close, tears streaming down my face, and feel the other 3 pile in Regina wrapping his long arms around us from behind. Lyric pressing against my side, Ezra taking my hand and squeezing tight. This is what Damien will never understand. This is what the pack system, with all its emphasis on blood and hierarchy and proper socialization, completely misses. Family isn't about who bore you, or what bloodline you carry. It's about who shows up, who stays, who fights for you even when the world says you're not worth fighting for. Okay, I say when I can speak again. Okay. Then we claim the territory, we activate the wards, and we show the regional council exactly what kind of family we are. When? Regina asks. This weekend. Lydia's filing the claim tomorrow morning, and we'll do the ward activation Saturday night. I pull back to look at each of them. This is going to change everything. Once we do this, there's no going back to hiding. We'll be visible, established, a target for anyone who wants to challenge us. Good, Lyric says fiercely. I'm tired of hiding. Then we're doing this, I say. All of us together. All of us together. They echo back. Friday passes in a blur of preparation. Lydia files the territorial claim under emergency provisions, citing credible threat to family unity. The regional council's response is immediate and bureaucratic. They've received the claim. It's under review. A decision will be rendered within 30 days. 30 days. An eternity and no time at all. Damien's response is even faster. My phone buzzes at 3 p.m. with a message that makes my blood boil. Damien, you're making a mistake. Those children deserve better than a delusional human playing at being a mother. Withdraw the claim and I'll recommend they be placed together. Keep fighting, and I'll make sure they're separated, and you never see them again. I show the message to Lydia, who photographs it immediately. Evidence of coercion and threats, she says with satisfaction. Keep them coming, Damien. Every message makes our case stronger. But that night, alone in the darkness of my living room, I let myself feel the fear I've been holding back. What if we lose? What if my arrogance and pride cost my children everything? What if I'm leading them into a battle we can't win? My phone buzzes again. I almost ignore it, but something makes me check. Rebecca, he knows I warned you. Not about this specific message, but he suspects. Be careful, and whatever happens, thank you for showing me what real strength looks like. I stare at that message for a long time, wondering what it cost her to send it, wondering what price she'll pay for her moment of solidarity. Then I delete it, protecting her the only way I can, and force myself to sleep. Because tomorrow, we go to war. Saturday morning dawns clear and cold, perfect weather for the most important ritual of our lives. We pack everything we might need: clothes, important documents, the few possessions that make a house feel like home. Lydia meets us at the apartment at 8 a.m. with a moving truck and 3 pack members she's personally vetted, wolves who believe in bloodline rights over pack politics, who've agreed to help us move and witness the ward activation. The drive to the territory feels both endless and too short. My children are silent, each processing what's about to happen in their own way. Regina stares out the window with the intense focus of someone preparing for battle. Lyric fidgets constantly, channeling nervous energy into movement. Ezra has his eyes closed, possibly meditating or possibly just withdrawing into himself the way he does when overwhelmed. Thalia holds my hand, her palm fever-warm, and doesn't let go. We arrive at the property as noon approaches. The wards recognize us this time, welcoming rather than warning, and I feel something settle in my chest. We're home. The next several hours are controlled chaos, unloading boxes, claiming bedrooms, doing the basic cleaning necessary to make the house livable. Lydia's pack members help without question, respecting our family's space while still providing the physical labor we need. By 6 p.m., as the sun starts its descent, we're as ready as we're going to be. The ward activation should happen at sunset, Lydia says, gathering us in the tower room. That's when the boundary between day and night is thinnest, when old magic is most receptive. Each of you will stand at your designated window: Regina north, Lyric east, Thalia south, Ezra west. Ruth, you'll stand in the center of the compass rose. What do I do? I ask. I don't have a bloodline to offer. You offer intention, purpose, the reason these wards should wake. She meets my eyes. You're the heart of this family, Ruth. Your children are the cardinal points, but you're what holds them together. The wards will recognize that. I'm not convinced, but there's no time to argue. The sun is already touching the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. My children take their positions at the windows, Regina facing north, his dark eyes serious and focused, Lyric facing east, practically vibrating with anticipation, Thalia facing south, her small hands already starting to glow with inner fire, Ezra facing west, his silver eyes reflecting the dying light. I stand in the center of the compass rose, my heart pounding so hard I'm sure everyone can hear it. Now, Lydia says softly, call your power, let it flow through you, through the land, through each other, and speak your intention. Tell the wards why they should wake. For a moment, nothing happens. We're just 5 people standing in an empty room, playing at magic we don't fully understand. Then, Regina speaks. I am Nightshade. His voice resonates with power far beyond his 15 years. Shadow and strength. I claim this land for my family. I am Goldcrest, Lyric adds, her voice bright and fierce. Sun and new beginnings. I claim this land for my family. I am Emberfell, Thalia says, flames dancing along her arms now. Fire and transformation. I claim this land for my family. I am Moonborn, Ezra finishes, his eyes glowing silver. Wisdom and the changing tide. I claim this land for my family. They all turn to look at me expectantly, waiting for me to complete the ritual, but I have no bloodline to claim, no ancient power to call. I'm just a human woman who refused to accept that rejection was the end of her story. I close my eyes and speak from the heart. I am nothing and nobody, no bloodline, No pack, no wolf to mark my place in your hierarchy. I open my eyes, meeting the gaze of each of my children in turn. But I am theirs, and they are mine, by choice, not fate, by love, not obligation. And if that's not enough for your ancient magic, then we'll find another way, because I'm not losing them. Not to pack politics, not to Damien's revenge, not to a system that values blood over bond. The silence that follows feels eternal. Then the wards wake. It's not gentle, it's not quiet. The compass rose beneath my feet, blazes to life, light pouring up through the inlaid symbols. My children's eyes glow, Regina's black as midnight, Lyric's gold as dawn, Thalia's red as flame, Ezra's silver as moonlight. Power flows between them, through them, connecting at the point where I stand. And the house, the land itself, exhales in recognition. 4 bloodlines, the old magic whispers, 4 corners, and at the center, the heart that chose them. Unprecedented, imperfect, accepted. The light fades slowly, leaving us all gasping and slightly singed but undeniably changed. Did it work? Lyric asks breathlessly. Lydia, who'd been watching from the doorway, is staring at us with something like awe. Look out the windows, she says hoarsely. We do, and gasp in unison. The wards are visible now, not just to wolves, but to everyone. Lines of light connecting trees, weaving through the forest, creating a protective web around the entire 300 acres. They pulse in rhythm with our heartbeats, 4 colors intertwining: black, gold, red, silver. You did it, Lydia says. You activated ancient bloodline wards without being pack, without being traditional, without being anything the system said you needed to be. She smiles, and there are tears on her cheeks. You just rewrote the rules. I look at my children, my family, my pack, my everything, and feel something that might be hope. We claimed our ground. We activated our protections. And we proved that family, real family, can create magic that hierarchies and bloodlines alone never could. Now we just have to defend it. Chapter 6. The first week in our new home passes in a strange state of suspension, waiting for the other shoe to drop, for Damien's next move, for the regional council to respond to our accelerated claim. But nothing happens. The silence is almost worse than an attack would be. We settle into routines because routines are what keep us grounded. Regina takes responsibility for perimeter checks, walking the ward lines twice daily to ensure they're holding strong. Lyric claims the greenhouse and starts planning a garden, channeling her nervous energy into something productive. Ezra converts the study into a makeshift library, organizing the books left behind by the Silverstream pack and adding our own collection. Thalia discovers that the fireplace in her room responds to her emotions, burning brighter when she's happy, and banking to embers when she's sad. I try to make the house feel like home. Cook meals in the oversized kitchen, hang curtains, create spaces that belong to us rather than to the ghosts of the pack that lived here before. But underneath the domesticity, we're all waiting. On day 8, the hammer falls. I'm making lunch when Lydia calls, her voice tight with barely controlled fury. They've scheduled the custody hearing, she says without preamble. 3 weeks from today. And they've appointed the review committee. My hands go numb, the knife I'm holding clatters to the cutting board. Who? 3 members. Alpha Cornelius Ashford of Iron Ridge, the one who's been calling about Regina. Elder Meredith Grayson, supposedly neutral but with known traditional leanings. And... She pauses, and I can hear her take a steadying breath. And Damien Silverpaw himself. That's a conflict of interest, I say, my voice rising. He's the one who filed the petition. He can't judge it too. Apparently he can. He argued that as an alpha, with direct knowledge of your history and character, he's uniquely qualified to assess your fitness as a guardian. The regional council accepted that reasoning. Lydia's disgust is palpable. It's a stacked deck, Ruth. They're not even trying to hide the bias. I sink into a chair, the room spinning. So what do? We prepare. We build the strongest case possible. We find witnesses who can speak to your parenting, to your children's well-being, to the bond between you. She pauses, and we pray that at least one of those 3 committee members has a conscience. After she hangs up, I sit in my kitchen, our kitchen, in our home, on our land, and let myself feel the full weight of what's coming. They're going to take my children away. Not might, not could, will. Because the system is rigged, the judges are biased. And I'm a human woman trying to hold on to something the pack world says isn't mine to keep. Mom, I look up to find all 4 of them standing in the doorway. They must have heard my conversation with Lydia, or maybe they just sensed my distress through whatever bond we've forged in this house. The hearing is in 3 weeks, I tell them, because they deserve the truth. And Damien is on the review committee. The explosion of outrage is immediate and loud. Lyric starts pacing, her hands clenching into fists. Regina's expression goes dangerously blank, the way it does when he's fighting to control his wolf. Ezra's eyes flash silver, a warning sign that his usually calm demeanor is fracturing. Even Thalia, sweet gentle Thalia, has small flames dancing along her fingertips. That's cheating, she says, her voice shaking. They're cheating. Yes, I agree. They are. So we cheat back, Lyric says fiercely. We find a way to disqualify him, or we follow the law, I interrupt firmly. Because if we don't, we prove them right. We prove that we can't be trusted, that we're just as willing to break rules when it suits us, even if following the law means losing? Regina asks quietly. I want to lie. Want to tell him that justice will prevail, that doing the right thing always works out, that the world is fair to those who play by the rules. But he's too old for fairy tales, and I'm too tired to pretend. Even then, I say, because our integrity is the only thing they can't take from us. The next 2 weeks are a gauntlet of preparation. Lydia brings in a parade of expert witnesses, a child psychologist who interviews each of my children separately and declares them some of the healthiest, most well-adjusted young wolves she's seen in decades. A bloodline historian who testifies to the rarity and value of their genetic heritage. A former regional council member who argues passionately that chosen families deserve the same legal protections as biological ones. We gather character witnesses, my landlady from our old apartment, who talks about how the kids were always polite and helpful. The owner of the bookstore below our old place, who describes how Ezra would spend hours reading and always put the books back exactly where they belonged. A teacher from the online academy the kids attend, who praises their academic performance and their obvious respect for education. We compile medical records, showing no history of abuse or neglect. Financial records proving I can support them. Documentation of every achievement, every milestone, every moment of ordinary domestic life that proves we're a real family. But through it all, I can see the doubt creeping into my children's eyes. They're starting to understand what I've known all along, that sometimes, no amount of evidence matters when the people judging you have already made up their minds. On the night before the hearing, I can't sleep. I find myself in the tower room at 2 a.m., staring out at the ward lights pulsing through the darkness. They're beautiful, and these protections we built together. They should be enough to keep us safe, but wards protect against external threats, not legal ones. They can't stop a piece of paper that says my children don't belong to me. Can't sleep either? I turn to find Regina standing in the doorway, wearing sleep pants and a worried expression. Just thinking, I say. He comes to stand beside me, tall enough now that I have to look up slightly to meet his eyes. When did he get so tall? When did he stop being the angry 8-year-old I pulled from that orphanage and become this young man on the verge of his full power? We're going to lose, aren't we? He asks quietly. I could lie. Should lie, probably. Give him hope to carry into tomorrow's hearing. But Regina deserves the truth. I don't know, I admit. Lydia thinks we have a fighting chance. She says our case is strong, our evidence is compelling, and that even a biased committee will have trouble dismissing everything we've presented. I take a breath. But yes, we might lose. Damien has power and influence and the entire weight of pack tradition backing him, and I'm just the woman who saved 4 discarded pups and gave them a reason to believe they were worth saving. Regina finishes. Just the mother who fought the entire pack system to keep us together. Just the human who activated ancient bloodline wards through sheer force of will and love. That might not be enough. It's everything. He turns to face me fully. Mom, I need you to understand something. Even if we lose tomorrow, even if they separate us and place us with different packs and we never see each other again, what you gave us can't be taken away. You taught us that we're not broken. That being different doesn't mean being wrong. That family is a choice, not an obligation." His voice cracks slightly. "If they split us up, I'll survive it. Because you taught me how to survive. And someday, when I'm old enough and strong enough, I'll come find my siblings again, and we'll rebuild what they tried to destroy." I pull him into a fierce hug. This boy who's become a man too fast because the world demanded it. "I love you," I whisper. "All of you. So much it scares me sometimes." "We love you too," he says. "And that's not going to change, no matter what happens tomorrow." We stand together in the tower room, mother and son, drawing strength from each other as the wards pulse around us like a heartbeat. When dawn finally comes, I'm as ready as I'll ever be. The regional council building is imposing by design, all marble columns and soaring ceilings, built to remind visitors of their own insignificance in the face of bureaucratic power. We arrive an hour early because Lydia insisted, dressed in formal clothes that feel like armor. I'm wearing a conservative navy suit that I can't really afford but bought anyway because first impressions matter. My children are dressed similarly, Regina in a suit that makes him look older and more dangerous, the girls in dresses that balance modesty with dignity, Ezra in slacks and a button-down that he keeps tugging at uncomfortably. We look like we're going to a funeral. Maybe we are. The hearing room is smaller than I expected, more conference room than courtroom, with a long table for the review committee and chairs arranged in rows for witnesses and observers. There's no judge's bench, no witness stand, just functional furniture and fluorescent lighting that makes everything look slightly jaundiced. Damien is already there when we arrive, sitting at the committee table and looking annoyingly comfortable. He's wearing an expensive suit and the kind of confident expression that comes from knowing the game is rigged in your favor. When his eyes land on me, something cold and triumphant flickers across his face. He thinks he's already won. Alpha Cornelius sits to his left, the older man who's been calling about Regina, looking stern and official. Elder Meredith sits to his right, a silver-haired woman with sharp eyes and an expression that gives nothing away. "All rise for the review committee," someone announces, even though the committee is already seated. We stand anyway, following protocol. Elder Meredith speaks first. "This hearing is convened to review the custody arrangement of 4 minor wolves currently under the guardianship of Ruth Waldrop, human-born and unaffiliated with any recognized pack. The committee will hear testimony from both parties, review submitted evidence, and render a decision regarding the appropriateness of this arrangement." She looks directly at me. "Miss Waldrop, you understand that the burden of proof rests with you. You must demonstrate that your guardianship serves the best interests of these children better than traditional pack placement." "I understand," I say, keeping my voice steady. "Very well. We'll begin with opening statements. Miss Waldrop, you may proceed." I stand, my hands shaking slightly, and face the 3 people who hold my family's fate in their hands. 3 years ago, I was rejected by my mate and cast out of my pack because my body couldn't give him what he wanted. I was told I was worthless, broken, a genetic dead end. I believed it for a while. Believed that without the ability to bear children, I had no purpose, no value. I take a breath. Then I met Regina, an 8-year-old boy with more rage than his small body could contain, abandoned by the Nightshade pack for being too aggressive. They'd left him in a human orphanage with no explanation, no support, no acknowledgement that he ever existed. I glance at my son, who's sitting perfectly still, his face carefully neutral. I wasn't looking to become a mother. I was just volunteering, trying to find a purpose in the wreckage of my old life. But Regina looked at me with these eyes that held so much pain and anger and desperate, terrified hope, and I couldn't walk away. So I took him home. I learned everything I could about alpha pups and pack dynamics, and how to help a traumatized child feel safe again. I made mistakes. God, I made so many mistakes. But I showed up every day. I didn't give up on him, even when he gave me every reason to. "Miss Waldrop," Elder Meredith interrupts. "This is all very touching, but I'm establishing pattern," I say firmly. Because a year later, I found Lyric, a 10-year-old with Goldcrest bloodline, declared illegitimate and denied by her birth pack. She was in the foster system, bouncing between homes that couldn't handle a wolf child. I brought her home to Regina, and we became 3. Then Ezra, abandoned by the Moonborn pack for having cursed eyes. Then Thalia, one of the Emberfell survivors that her pack couldn't afford to keep. I lean forward, my hands flat on the table. 4 children. 4 ancient bloodlines. 4 souls that the pack system declared disposable. I didn't rescue them, they rescued me. They gave me a family when I thought I'd never have one. They gave me purpose when I thought I was worthless. And together, we built something that your laws say shouldn't exist but that works better than most traditional pack structures. Are you finished? Damien asks, his voice dripping with disdain. No. I turn to face him directly. You filed this petition, claiming my children need proper pack socialization and appropriate guidance. But you're the same man who rejected me for being barren, who publicly humiliated me to justify his own cruelty, who invited me to your pup ceremony specifically to mock my pain. You don't care about my children's well-being. You care about punishing me for daring to thrive after you tried to destroy me. The room goes completely silent. That's a serious accusation, Alpha Cornelius says carefully. It's the truth. And everyone in this room knows it. I straighten my shoulders. I'm not the perfect mother. I'm not a wolf. I can't shift. I can't teach them everything about pack dynamics and hierarchy. But I love them. Unconditionally. Completely. Without reservation. And I've proven, over 3 years, and through every challenge, that love is enough. That chosen family is real family. That my children are thriving under my care. I sit down, my heart pounding, and feel Regina's hand find mine under the table and squeeze. Damien's opening statement is everything I expected. Cold, clinical, focused on my deficiencies. I'm human, therefore unqualified. I have no pack support, therefore isolated. I lack the resources and knowledge to properly prepare alpha-blooded pups for their future roles. He makes it all sound so reasonable, so logical. That's what makes it terrifying. The hearing proceeds with witness testimony. Lydia's experts speak eloquently about child development and bloodline significance. My character witnesses paint a picture of a devoted mother and well-adjusted children. Then Damien's witnesses take their turn. A pack psychologist testifies that children raised outside pack structures often struggle with identity and belonging. A bloodline specialist argues that ancient lines require specific cultural education that a human guardian can't provide. An alpha from a neighboring pack suggests that my children's genetic heritage is too valuable to be wasted on a non-traditional household. They never quite say I'm a bad mother. They just imply that even good human parenting can't compete with mediocre pack parenting when it comes to wolf children. It's death by 1,000 careful cuts. The hearing stretches into the afternoon. My children are called to testify one by one, asked questions designed to reveal cracks in our family structure. Regina is asked if he resents having a human mother who can't understand his wolf nature. He responds that understanding comes from listening, not from sharing DNA. Lyric is asked if she feels isolated from other young wolves. She responds that quality matters more than quantity when it comes to relationships. Ezra is asked if he wishes he'd been raised in a traditional pack. He responds that his birth pack called him cursed and threw him away. So no, he doesn't wish that at all. Thalia, the youngest, breaks my heart when she's asked if she understands what it means to have a mother who isn't a wolf. It means I have a mom who chose me, she says, her voice small but clear, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. That feels more special than being born to someone who might not have wanted you. Even Elder Meredith looks affected by that response. But Damien remains unmoved. As the day wears on, I can feel our case slipping away. We have love and evidence and compelling testimony. They have tradition and precedent, and the full weight of a system that wasn't designed to accommodate families like ours. Finally, as the sun starts to set, Elder Meredith calls for closing statements. Damien stands, and his final argument is devastating in its simplicity. Nobody disputes that Miss Waldrop loves these children. Nobody disputes that she's tried her best. But love and effort aren't sufficient when we're talking about 4 of the most significant bloodlines in our species' history. These children represent genetic legacies that predate modern pack structures by millennia. They carry the potential to revitalize lines we thought were lost. That potential is too important to be left in the hands of someone who, through no fault of her own, simply cannot provide what they need to reach their full potential. He looks at my children with something that might be genuine sympathy. They deserve pack families who can teach them their heritage, alpha mentors who can guide their development, connections to their ancestral lines that will help them understand who they are and what they're meant to become. Miss Waldrop gave them stability when they had none, and for that, she should be commended. But now it's time to ensure they receive the specialized care their unique situations require. He sits down, and I know with horrible certainty that he's won, because he made it sound so reasonable, so caring, so much about the children's needs rather than his revenge. It's my turn now. My last chance to save my family. I stand on shaking legs and face the committee. Everything Alpha Damien said is true. I begin, and I see confusion flicker across Lydia's face. My children do deserve connections to their heritage. They do need alpha mentors and pack guidance. They absolutely should understand their bloodlines and what they mean. I pause, gathering my courage. But here's what he didn't say. Those 4 bloodlines? They were destroyed by pack politics. The Nightshade pack imploded from infighting. The Goldcrest pack became so obsessed with bloodline purity that they rejected anyone who didn't fit their narrow definition. The Moonborn pack declared their own children cursed for having the wrong eye color. The Emberfell pack was hunted nearly to extinction, while other packs stood by and did nothing to help. I let that sink in. The pack system didn't preserve these precious bloodlines, it destroyed them. And now that my children have survived despite being discarded by that system, suddenly everyone wants to reclaim them, wants to profit from their genetic heritage, use their bloodlines for political leverage, force them into molds that nearly killed their ancestors. I move to stand behind my children, placing a hand on each of their shoulders. I can't teach them everything about pack dynamics. I can't shift with them, or fully understand what it means to have a wolf. But I can teach them something the pack system apparently can't, that their value isn't determined by their usefulness to others, that family is about more than genetic legacy, that love without conditions is possible and worth fighting for. My voice cracks, but I push through. If you separate us, you're telling them that everything I taught them was a lie, that in the end, bloodline matters more than bond, that their worth is in their DNA, not in who they are as people. Is that really the lesson you want to send? I sit down, exhausted and emotionally drained, and wait for the committee to deliberate. They don't leave the room to discuss. They just turn to each other and begin speaking in low voices that were clearly not meant to overhear. 5 minutes pass, 10, 15. Finally, Elder Meredith clears her throat. The committee has reached a decision, she says. However, given the complexity of this case and the precedent-setting nature of any ruling, we require additional time to formalize our findings and prepare supporting documentation. We will reconvene in 2 weeks to deliver our final ruling. 2 more weeks of waiting. 2 more weeks of uncertainty. 2 more weeks of holding on to something we might lose. This hearing is adjourned. We file out of the building in silence, too exhausted and wrung out to speak. Lydia tries to offer some encouraging words about how the delay might mean they're taking our arguments seriously, but nobody has the energy to respond. We're halfway to the parking lot when Damien catches up with us. Ruth, a word. I turn to face him, keeping my children behind me. I have nothing to say to you. Then listen. He glances at the kids, then back to me. Withdraw your claim to the territory. Drop your challenge to the custody petition. Let them be placed with appropriate packs, and I'll make sure they're placed together. You can have visitation rights, supervised access. They won't lose you completely, but they'll lose each other, I say, because we both know placed together means in one pack under one alpha's authority, with their bloodlines controlled and their futures dictated by politics. They'll have structure, training, opportunities you can't provide. They'll have a cage. I step closer to him, my voice dropping to something dangerous. You lost, Damien. You rejected me, cast me out, tried to erase me, and I survived. I thrived. I built something beautiful from the ruins you left me in. That's what you can't forgive. Not my humanity or my inability to give you heirs. Just the fact that I proved you didn't break me. His jaw clenches. You're going to lose this hearing. Maybe. But even if I do, Even if you take my children away from me, you still lose. Because they'll know I fought for them. They'll know I chose them over and over again. And someday, when they're old enough to make their own choices, they'll remember who loved them unconditionally, and who saw them as resources to be controlled. I turn away from him, gathering my children, and walk toward our car. Behind us, I hear Damien say, "You'll regret this." "No," I say without looking back. The only thing I've ever regretted is wasting 2 years loving someone who was never worthy of it. We drive home in silence, the weight of the day pressing down on all of us. 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks until we find out if love really is enough, or if the pack system finally destroys what it tried to kill 3 years ago. Chapter 7. The Long Wait, and the Unexpected Ally. The 2 weeks following the hearing stretch like years. We exist in a state of suspended animation, going through the motions of daily life while waiting for the axe to fall. The house that felt like sanctuary now feels like a beautiful cage, its ward lights pulsing in rhythms that match our anxious heartbeats. I catch my children looking at each other with expressions that break my heart, memorizing faces, cataloging mannerisms, storing up memories against the possibility that they'll soon be all they have left of each other. Thalia stops sleeping in her own room. She drags her blankets into her sister's room every night, curling up between Lyric and the wall like she used to when she first came to us. When I ask her why, she says, "I'm practicing for when I can't anymore." Ezra spends hours in the study, organizing and reorganizing the books, creating systems, building structures, controlling the one small piece of his world that he can. He doesn't talk about what he's feeling, but I find notes tucked into various books, messages for his siblings, telling them things he might not get to say in person. "Lyric, you're braver than you think. Don't let anyone make you small. Regina, it's okay to ask for help sometimes. Strength isn't the same as invulnerability. Thalia, your fire is a gift, not a curse. Burn bright." Lyric channels everything into the greenhouse, working the soil with an intensity that borders on obsession. She's planning next year's garden, even though she might not be here to see it grow, building something for the future as an act of defiance against the uncertainty. And Regina becomes my shadow, following me room to room, helping with mundane tasks, never quite leaving me alone. It takes me 3 days to realize what he's doing. He's saying goodbye, not with words, because words would make it real, but with presence, with time, with the quiet intimacy of shared space and comfortable silence. On day 4, I find him sitting on the back porch at dawn, staring out at the forest with an expression too old for his 15-year-old face. I sit beside him without speaking, and we watch the sunrise paint the sky in shades of rose and gold. "I've been thinking," he says finally, his voice rough, "about what happens if we lose. If they split us up." "Regina." "No, listen, I need to say this." He turns to face me, and his eyes, those dark nightshade eyes that once held nothing but rage, are filled with something that looks like peace. "If they separate us, I'm not going to fight it, not physically. I'm not going to give them any excuse to call me violent or uncontrollable, or prove that I'm too aggressive to be worth keeping. You're not. I know, you taught me that. But Mom, I need you to understand I'm going to cooperate with whatever pack they place me in. I'm going to be the perfect pack member. I'm going to learn everything they teach me, follow every rule, prove that I'm valuable and trustworthy, and exactly what an alpha-blooded wolf should be." His voice hardens. "And then, the day I turn 18 and have legal autonomy, I'm going to find my siblings. And we're going to come back to you. And nobody will be able to stop us because we'll be adults with confirmed bloodline rights and the full protection of ancient law." I stare at him, this boy who's become a strategist, a long-term planner, someone who can see beyond immediate pain to future possibilities. 3 years, I whisper. "You'd have to wait 3 years. I'd wait 30 if that's what it took. Because you taught me that family isn't about proximity or convenience, it's about commitment. And I'm committed to this family, to you, to Lyric, to Ezra, to Thalia for the rest of my life." He takes my hand. "So, if we lose in 5 days, I need you to let me go without making it harder. I need you to trust that this isn't the end, just a detour. Can you do that?" I want to say no. Want to tell him that I'll fight with everything I have, that we'll run if we have to, that I'll never voluntarily let him go. But he's asking me to be strong for him, to make this easier rather than harder. I can try, I say finally. That's all I ask. We sit together as the sun climbs higher, and I commit this moment to memory, the weight of his hand in mine, the solid warmth of his shoulder pressed against mine, the quiet strength he radiates, even while planning for heartbreak. On day 7, we get an unexpected visitor. I'm in the kitchen making lunch, when the wards hum with recognition, someone with authorized access approaching. I tense, wondering if it's Lydia with bad news, but when I look out the window, I see a car I don't recognize pulling up the drive. A woman emerges. She's tall and regal, probably in her 60s, with silver hair and dark skin and the kind of presence that makes everyone stand a little straighter. She moves like an alpha, but there's something else there too. An ancient quality that speaks of bloodline and power that predates modern pack structures. Regina appears at my elbow, his body tensed for a fight. I don't recognize her scent. Stay close, I murmur, moving toward the door. The woman is halfway up the porch steps when I open it. She stops, looking me over with sharp, dark eyes that miss nothing. Ruth Waldrop, she says. It's not a question. I'm Sage Emberfell. We've communicated through your lawyer, but I wanted to meet you in person. Sage. The Emberfell survivor who provided testimony for Thalia's bloodline verification. What are you doing here? I ask cautiously, ensuring the regional council doesn't make a catastrophic mistake. She glances at Regina, and something like approval flickers across her face. Nightshade. Yes? You have your grandfather's eyes. You knew my grandfather? I knew many things before the world went mad and decided ancient bloodlines were expendable. She returns her attention to me. May I come in? What I have to say isn't meant for the trees. I hesitate, but Regina nods slightly, some instinct telling him she's not a threat. I open the door wider, and Sage Emberfell steps into our home. The other children materialize from various rooms, drawn by the presence of a stranger. Sage's eyes land on Thalia, and her entire demeanor softens. Little fire, she says gently. You've grown. You knew me? Thalia asks, confused. I held you when you were 3 days old. Sang you the old songs, taught your mother how to manage your temperature swings. Sage's smile is sad. And then the hunters came, and I was away on a scouting mission, and when I came back, everyone was dead or scattered, including you. You could have found me, Thalia says, and there's accusation in her voice. You could have looked. I tried. But the remaining Emberfell adults decided to prioritize the strongest fire wielders, the ones most likely to carry on the line. You were deemed adequate but not exceptional, so you went to human foster care. Sage's voice hardens. I argued. I fought. I was outvoted, and by the time I had the resources to track you down, Ruth had already claimed you. She looks at me then, and there's something complicated in her expression, gratitude and regret, and maybe a little envy. You gave her what her own people couldn't. A home. Unconditional love. The space to develop her gifts without the pressure of being a genetic legacy. She gestures to my other children. You gave all of them that, which is why I'm here. She reaches into her bag and pulls out a thick folder, setting it on my kitchen table. Legal precedent. 23 cases over the last 150 years where the regional council ruled on custody disputes involving non-traditional guardians and rare bloodlines. I've analyzed every single one, looking for patterns, arguments that worked, technicalities that were exploited. She taps the folder. This is your ammunition. I stare at the folder like it might explode. Why would you help us? Because the alternative is watching history repeat itself. Watching the pack system destroy these bloodlines again. Just more slowly this time. By separating your children, placing them with families who will see them as resources first and children second. Forcing them into roles they might not want, just to preserve some abstract notion of genetic legacy. Sage's eyes flash with old anger. The Emberfell line didn't die because of hunters. It died because we prioritized breeding over bonding, power over love, legacy over individual happiness. We created wolves who were strong but hollow, and when the hunters came, those hollow wolves had nothing worth fighting for, so they didn't fight hard enough. The silence that follows is heavy with implications. Your children are strong because they're loved, Sage continues. They're resilient because they've been given the freedom to be themselves. They carry their bloodlines with pride because those bloodlines aren't chains, they're gifts freely given and freely accepted. That's what the pack system will destroy if they separate you. The committee doesn't care about that, I say quietly. They care about tradition and precedent and maintaining the hierarchy, which is why you need to speak their language. She opens the folder, revealing pages of notes and highlighted sections and cross-references. Elder Meredith cares about procedure. Show her legal precedent, and she'll listen. Alpha Cornelius cares about power. Demonstrate that your children will be more valuable as a unified force than as separated individuals. And Damien. She smiles coldly. Damien cares about his reputation. So you expose the revenge motive. You make it clear that ruling in his favor makes the entire committee look complicit in a personal vendetta. How do I do that? I ask. You call witnesses he doesn't expect. People who can testify to his treatment of you during your mating, his reasons for rejection, his pattern of cruelty disguised as duty. She pulls out another document. I've compiled a list. Former Silverpaw Pack members who left because they disagreed with his methods. Wolves who witnessed your relationship and can speak to his character. It's not pretty, and it will make enemies. But it might also make the committee think twice about rubber stamping his petition. I look at Lydia's carefully compiled evidence, at Sage's new ammunition, at my children watching with fragile hope in their eyes. This could work, Regina says slowly, if we go on offense instead of defense, if we make the hearing about Damien's fitness to judge rather than Mom's fitness to parent. It's risky, Sage warns. It'll burn bridges, make powerful people very angry. You'll have enemies for years. We already have enemies, Lyric points out. At least this way, we're fighting back. I think about everything we've been through. The ceremony where Damien tried to humiliate me and I walked in with my head high. The territorial claim that said, we deserve a home. The ward activation that proved our family is real and powerful. We've been playing defense this whole time, proving we're good enough, worthy enough, traditional enough to deserve each other. Maybe it's time to stop proving and start demanding. Okay, I say to Sage. Show me what you have. All of it. The next 5 days are a blur of preparation. Sage moves into one of the outbuildings, claiming she wants to be close in case we need real-time advice. But I think she's also drawn to this place, to the ward lights that pulse with Emberfell fire among other ancient signatures, to the possibility that maybe her bloodline isn't as extinct as she thought. She and Thalia spend hours together, the older woman teaching the younger one things about fire control and Emberfell history that I could never provide. I watch them and feel something complicated, gratitude that my daughter is connecting with her heritage, and a small, selfish fear that Sage could provide what I never can. But then Thalia runs to me at dinner, breathless with excitement about what she learned, and I realize the fear is groundless. Sage can teach her about fire. I taught her about family. Both matter, neither is sufficient alone. Lydia arrives on day 10 with our witness list expanded. She's found 3 former Silverpaw Pack members willing to testify about Damien's behavior during our mating. One of them, a woman named Clara, who used to be my closest friend, before the rejection has written a statement that makes me want to cry. Damien never loved Ruth. He loved the idea of her Abeda's daughter who could strengthen alliances and produce heirs. When she failed at the producing part, he discarded her without a second thought. I watched him become colder and crueler over 2 years, treating her like a broken appliance rather than a person. And when he rejected her, he did it publicly, specifically to humiliate her. This custody petition isn't about the children's welfare. It's about punishing Ruth for having the audacity to thrive after he tried to destroy her. She's putting her neck on the line, Lydia says. Testifying against an alpha, especially one as vindictive as Damien, could get her blacklisted from Pack Society. Then why is she doing it? I ask. Because she says she owes you, that she should have stood by you 3 years ago and didn't. And this is her chance to make it right. Lydia slides the statement across the table. Do you want her to testify? I think about Clara, bright, funny, loyal right up, until loyalty became inconvenient. The friend who sent that text saying she couldn't be associated with this situation. Part of me wants to tell her no. to let her live with her guilt, without offering her the redemption of helping now. But the larger part, the part that understands how hard it is to stand against the system, to risk everything for principle, knows that people deserve second chances. Yes, I say. Tell her yes. On day 12, Rebecca calls. I almost don't answer. We haven't spoken since her warning at the coffee shop, and I'm not sure what else she could tell me that would help. But curiosity wins again. Rebecca? Ruth. She pauses, and I hear what sounds like a door closing. I need to tell you something. About the committee. My heart stops. What about them? Elder Meredith came to visit Damien yesterday. I overheard part of their conversation. They weren't as private as they thought. She takes a breath. She's leaning toward ruling in your favor. She thinks the evidence is compelling, that separating siblings would cause significant harm, and that Damien's presence on the committee is problematic. Hope flares in my chest. That's good news. It would be, except Damien knows, and he's planning something for the final hearing. Something that will force Meredith to rule against you regardless of the evidence. Her voice drops to barely a whisper. I don't know what it is, but I heard him tell Alpha Cornelius that he has insurance against a negative ruling, that you'll destroy yourself at the hearing. Insurance? Destroy myself? Rebecca, what does that mean? I don't know. I'm sorry. I needed to warn you. Whatever he's planning, be careful. Don't give him ammunition. She hangs up before I can ask more questions. I sit in my kitchen, our kitchen, in our home, and try to figure out what Damien could possibly have planned that would make me destroy my own case. And I come up with nothing, which terrifies me more than if I could guess. The night before the final hearing, we gather in the tower room, all 5 of us, sitting in our designated positions, Regina at the north window, Lyric at the east, Thalia at the south, Ezra at the west, me in the center of the compass rose, where the wards recognize me not as a bloodline carrier but as the heart that holds them together. Whatever happens tomorrow, I say, my voice steady despite my fear. I need you all to know something. You are my greatest achievement. Not activating these wards, not claiming this territory, not standing up to the pack system. You, Regina, Lyric, Ezra, Thalia. You are what I'm most proud of in this world. Mom, Lyric starts, her voice thick with emotion. Let me finish. If we lose tomorrow, if they separate us, I need you to remember that what we built together was real, is real. Nothing they do can change the fact that we chose each other, that we loved each other, that we were a family. Regina corrects firmly. We are a family, present tense, and we're going to stay that way. We don't know that. Yes, we do. He stands, coming to stand beside me at the center. Because even if they physically separate us, even if we spend years apart, we'll still be family. The wards proved it. We activated ancient bloodline magic not because of our genetics, but because of our bond. That doesn't just disappear because some committee says it should. The others join us, gathering at the center of the compass rose, and I feel the wards pulse in recognition, 4 bloodlines, and 1 human heart, creating something that shouldn't work but does. Together, Thalia says softly. Together, we all echo. And in that moment, standing in the tower room with ward lights dancing around us, and my children's hands in mine, I know with absolute certainty that whatever happens tomorrow, Damien has already lost, because he never understood what we built here. Never grasped that family isn't about blood or bonds or genetic legacy. It's about showing up, staying, choosing each other, over and over again, especially when the world says you shouldn't. That's the magic he can never touch. That's the strength he can never break. And tomorrow, when we walk back into that hearing room, we're going to show him, show all of them, exactly what he threw away when he rejected me. Not a broken, barren woman, but a mother fierce enough to fight the entire world for her children, and a family strong enough to weather whatever storm comes next. Chapter 8, The Final Verdict. The second hearing feels different from the first. Maybe it's because we know what we're walking into this time. Maybe it's because we've spent 2 weeks preparing for war instead of hoping for mercy. Or maybe it's because my children walk into that building like warriors going into battle, heads high, shoulders back, ready to face whatever comes. We're not victims anymore, we're challengers. The hearing room is more crowded than before. Word has spread about the case. The rejected, Barren Luna, raising 4 ancient bloodline heirs, fighting the system that threw them all away. People want to witness history. Or maybe they just want to see the spectacle of watching us fail publicly. Damien is already seated at the committee table, looking supremely confident. Alpha Cornelius sits beside him, expression neutral. Elder Meredith is the last to arrive. And when her eyes meet mine, I see something there that might be sympathy, or might be pity. I can't tell which, and I'm not sure which would be worse. This hearing is reconvened. Elder Meredith announces once everyone is seated. The committee has reviewed all submitted evidence and testimony from the initial hearing. Today we will hear any additional evidence either party wishes to present before rendering our final decision. Lydia stands. The guardian wishes to present additional testimony, Your Honor. Your Honor? Elder Meredith raises an eyebrow. This isn't a formal trial, Miss Thorne whisper. But, proceed. We call Clara Whitmeadow to testify. There's a murmur through the crowd as Clara enters, a slim blonde woman in her 30s, her hands trembling slightly as she takes her seat. She avoids looking at Damien, which tells me everything about how much courage this is taking. Lydia walks her through her testimony methodically. Clara's friendship with me during the mating. Damien's progressive coldness as my inability to conceive became apparent. The cruel little comments he'd make in private, the way he'd discuss me with other pack members like I wasn't there, the systematic erosion of my self-worth. And when he rejected her, Lydia asks, why did he do it publicly? He said it was to set an example. To show the pack that even Luna wasn't above the requirements of her position, that everyone had duties, and failure to fulfill them had consequences. Clara's voice shakes. But everyone knew the real reason. He wanted to humiliate her. Wanted to make sure she'd never be able to show her face in pack society again. He wanted to destroy her completely. Objection, Damien says sharply. This is speculation about my mental state, not fact. Sustained, Elder Meredith says. Miss Whitmeadow, please confine your testimony to what you directly observed, not your interpretation of motives. I observed him smiling, Clara says quietly, during the rejection ceremony, while Ruth was crying. I observed him laugh afterward with his beta about how dramatic she was being. I observed him systematically destroying every friendship she had, by implying that association with her would be seen as disloyalty to him. Those are facts. The silence that follows is damning. Lydia calls 2 more witnesses, former Silverpaw Pack members who corroborate Clara's account. By the time they're finished, a picture has been painted of Damien not as a concerned alpha worried about children's welfare, but as a vindictive ex-mate, using the legal system to continue his harassment. Then it's Damien's turn for rebuttal. He stands slowly, and there's something in his expression that makes my skin crawl. Something triumphant and cruel that I remember from the worst days of our mating. I won't dispute that my rejection of Ruth was public, he says. Pack law requires public rejection of a Luna to be valid. But the narrative being constructed here that this custody petition is personal revenge is both insulting and false. I'm concerned about these children because they represent genetic legacies that are too important to be mismanaged. He pulls out a tablet, calling up something on the screen. Miss Waldrop has presented herself as a devoted mother who's raised these children successfully for 3 years. But I have evidence that her guardianship has been marked by significant incidents she's failed to disclose. My blood runs cold. What is he talking about? Exhibit A, Damien says, projecting an image onto the screen at the front of the room. A medical report from 2 years ago. Regina Waldrop, admitted to the emergency room with severe lacerations and a broken arm. Cause listed as training accident. I feel Regina tense beside me. That incident he'd been practicing. Shifting in the woods behind our old apartment, pushed himself too hard, and fell from a tree. It looked worse than it was. And he healed within days, because of his wolf metabolism. Exhibit B, Damien continues. A police report from 18 months ago. Neighbors complained about supernatural activity emanating from the Waldrop residence. Upon investigation, officers found evidence of fire damage, consistent with uncontrolled flame manipulation. That was Thalia, during a nightmare. She'd set her sheets on fire before I could calm her down. We'd handled it, filed the proper reports with supernatural services, got her additional therapy to help with the trauma triggers. It had been frightening, but not dangerous. I'd been awake and monitoring, and the fire never spread beyond her bed. Exhibit C, Damien says, and his smile is vicious now. A report from Child Protective Services from 8 months ago, investigating claims of inadequate supervision after Lyric Waldrop was found alone in a public park after dark. That was the night I'd had to work late at my part-time job, and Lyric had snuck out without telling Regina, who was supposed to be watching her. It was a lapse in judgment, mine for not having better backup plans, hers for not following house rules, but CPS had investigated and closed the case as unfounded. Each incident individually might be explainable, Damien says, addressing the committee now. But together, they paint a picture of a guardian who's overwhelmed, who lacks the resources and support system to safely raise 4 high-needs children, who's doing her best but whose best simply isn't adequate. He turns to face me directly. I'm not saying Ruth is deliberately negligent. I'm saying she's human, raising supernatural children with complex needs, without PAC support or proper resources. And these incidents prove that it's only a matter of time before one of these children is seriously hurt or worse under her care. The room erupts in whispered conversations. I see some heads nodding, others looking at me with skepticism or concern. Even Elder Meredith is frowning as she reviews the documents Damien has submitted. This is it. This is his insurance. Not a lie, but a selective presentation of truth twisted into a weapon. I want to stand up and explain each incident. Want to defend myself, justify my choices, prove that I've done everything I could to keep my children safe. But before I can move, Regina stands. May I speak? He asks, his voice cutting through the noise. Elder Meredith looks surprised but nods. You may address the committee. Regina walks to the front of the room with the confidence of someone 3 times his age. He faces the committee, and when he speaks, his voice is clear and strong. Everything Alpha Damien said is true. Those incidents happened, but what he didn't tell you is the context. He points to the medical report on the screen. That training accident happened because I was practicing shifting alone in the woods, trying to figure out my wolf by myself because I didn't have a pack to teach me. I fell, broke my arm, and instead of hiding it or trying to tough it out, I told Mom immediately. She took me to the hospital, filed all the proper reports, and then spent the next 3 months finding me a qualified shifter trainer who could teach me safely. He moves to the next exhibit. The fire incident with Thalia happened during a nightmare about the hunters who killed most of her birth pack. It was traumatic and scary, but Mom was awake and monitoring like she does every night because she knows Thalia's triggers. The fire never spread beyond her bed because Mom had already installed fire suppression systems in all our bedrooms. She'd prepared for that exact scenario. He looks at the final exhibit, and the CPS investigation happened because Lyric made a stupid choice to sneak out, and Mom had to work late because raising 4 kids on a single income is expensive. CPS investigated and found nothing wrong because there was nothing wrong. Just a normal family situation where sometimes things don't go perfectly. He turns to face Damien directly, and there's something dangerous in his expression. You want to paint these incidents as evidence of neglect, but they're actually evidence of the opposite. Evidence that, when things go wrong, and things always go wrong when you're raising kids, Mom handles them. She doesn't hide them or pretend they didn't happen. She documents them, gets us help, adjusts her approach. She shows up and does the work. He looks back at the committee. You want to know what neglect looks like? It looks like the Nightshade Pack dumping an 8-year-old at a human orphanage because he was too aggressive to control. It looks like the Goldcrest Pack refusing to acknowledge Lyric's existence because her mother wasn't the right bloodline. It looks like the Moonborn Pack performing a banishment ritual on a 10-year-old for having silver eyes. It looks like the Emberfell Pack choosing the strongest pups to save, and sending the rest of us to human foster care to take our chances. His voice rises, filling the room with barely controlled fury. Those are the people you want to give us back to? The packs that threw us away like garbage? You think they'll do better than the woman who saw 4 discarded children, and said, "You're mine now, and I'll fight anyone who tries to take you?" Mr. Waldrop, Elder Meredith says gently. We understand your loyalty to your guardian, but this isn't about loyalty, it's about reality. Regina's hands clench into fists. In 3 years with Mom, we've had 3 documented incidents, all of which were handled appropriately and resulted in improvements to our care. In the years before Mom, we were abandoned, rejected, abused, and told we were worthless. You want to compare those track records? Because I'm happy to provide detailed testimony about what proper pack care looked like for each of us. He takes a breath, visibly controlling himself. I'm 15 years old. In 3 more years, I'll have legal autonomy, and the first thing I'll do with that autonomy is come back to my family. Because Mom didn't just give us a home, she gave us a future. She taught us that being different doesn't mean being broken, that family is a choice, not an obligation, that love without conditions is possible. He looks at each committee member in turn. So, if you're going to separate us, if you're going to rule that pack placement is better than chosen family, then do it. But don't pretend it's about our welfare. Don't pretend you're protecting us. Be honest and admit that you're prioritizing system over individual, tradition over truth, bloodline over bond. He returns to his seat beside me, his jaw set and his eyes bright with unshed tears. The silence in the room is absolute. Then, Lyric stands. I want to add something, she says, her voice smaller than her brother's but no less fierce. Mom's not perfect. She makes mistakes. Sometimes she's overprotective, and sometimes she's too hands-off trying not to be overprotective. She burns dinner about twice a week. She can't help us with advanced shifter training because she's not a wolf. She looks at Damien. But she's never, not once, made us feel like we're less than because we're different. She's never told us our value is in our bloodlines or our usefulness or our ability to produce heirs someday. She loves us because we exist, not because of what we can do for her. Ezra stands next, his silver eyes glowing slightly. The Moonborn Pack said I was cursed. They performed a banishment ritual when I was 10, a formal ceremony declaring me severed from the bloodline, unworthy to carry the name. My own grandmother participated. His voice is quiet but carries. Mom said my eyes were beautiful. That silver was the color of moonlight and wisdom, and ancient magic. She made me feel precious instead of cursed. That's not something you can measure in incident reports. Finally, Thalia stands. She's the smallest, the youngest, and when she speaks, her voice trembles. When I first came to live with Mom, I was so scared. Scared I'd hurt someone with my fire. Scared nobody would want me because I was broken. Scared I'd wake up one day and she'd realize I was too much trouble and send me back. She looks at me, and tears are streaming down her face. But she didn't. Even when I set things on fire in my sleep, even when I had nightmares every night for 6 months, even when I was so scared and angry that I could barely function, she didn't send me back. She just held me and told me we'd figure it out together. She turns to the committee. You want to send us back to packs? To families who threw us away? You think that's better than staying with the person who chose us? Who fights for us? Who loves us even when we're difficult and complicated and expensive? She wipes her tears angrily. If you separate us, if you take us away from Mom, we'll survive, because she taught us how. But we'll know, for the rest of our lives, that the system values bloodline more than bond, that our genetic heritage matters more than our happiness. That love isn't actually enough. She sits down, and the room remains silent. Elder Meredith is staring at my children with an expression I can't read. Alpha Cornelius looks uncomfortable, his earlier confidence shaken. And Damien looks furious. This wasn't how his insurance was supposed to work. He'd presented evidence of my inadequacy, and instead of destroying me, it gave my children a platform to defend me. Does the guardian wish to make a statement? Elder Meredith asks me. I stand slowly, my legs shaking, and face the 3 people who hold my family's fate in their hands. My children said everything I could say, and they said it better than I could. I begin. They're right that I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I'm learning as I go, figuring out how to raise supernatural children without a supernatural community to guide me. Sometimes I get it wrong. I take a breath, but I show up. Every day, every challenge, every crisis I show up. And when I fail, I adjust and try again. I don't have the resources of a pack, or the knowledge of generations of wolf rearing. What I have is love and commitment, and the absolute certainty that these 4 souls are the most important thing in my life. I look at Damien. You rejected me 3 years ago because I couldn't give you biological children. You told me I was worthless, broken, a failure as a mate, and a Luna. And you were right about one thing: I couldn't give you what you wanted. But you were wrong about my worth. I gesture to my children. These 4 proved that my worth isn't in my ability to breed. It's in my capacity to love, to choose, to build something meaningful from the wreckage of broken dreams. You threw me away because I didn't fit your needs. They chose me because they saw what you never could. That family is about more than biology or fate or pack bonds. I straighten my shoulders. So, if you rule against us, if you decide that pack placement is better than what we've built, I'll accept your decision. I'll let them go, because I love them enough to want what's best for them, even if that destroys me. But I'll also know that the system that rejected me, that rejected them, that prioritizes tradition over truth, that system is broken beyond repair. I sit down, and my children immediately reach for me, hands finding mine, shoulders pressing against mine, creating a united front. Elder Meredith looks at her fellow committee members. We need to deliberate. Please clear the room except for the parties directly involved and their legal counsel. The observers file out reluctantly, leaving just my family, Lydia, Damien, and the committee. The 3 committee members huddle together, speaking in low voices that were not meant to overhear. But I catch fragments. Unprecedented situation, clear evidence of strong bonds. But precedent requires. Personal vendetta cannot be ignored. 5 minutes pass, 10, 15. Finally, they break apart and return to their seats. Elder Meredith speaks first, her voice carefully neutral. This case has presented the committee with a unique challenge. On one hand, we have clear evidence of strong familial bonds, adequate care despite limited resources, and children who are thriving under non-traditional guardianship. On the other hand, we have legitimate concerns about the long-term viability of a human guardian, raising multiple alpha-blooded children, without pack support or supernatural community resources. She pauses, and my heart stops. After careful consideration of all evidence and testimony, the committee has reached a decision. The room holds its breath. We find that Ruth Waldrop's guardianship of Regina, Lyric, Ezra, and Thalia is adequate and in the children's best interests. The custody arrangement will be upheld. The world stops spinning. However, Elder Meredith continues, we are adding several conditions to this arrangement. First, Miss Waldrop will establish a formal support network of supernatural mentors who can provide guidance in areas where she lacks expertise. Second, quarterly check-ins with a regional council-appointed child welfare specialist to ensure the children's needs continue to be met. Third, the children will attend the annual bloodline gathering, where they can connect with others from their ancestral lines. She looks directly at me. These conditions are non-negotiable. Failure to comply will result in immediate custody review. Do you accept these terms? Yes, I say, my voice breaking. Yes, absolutely. Then this hearing is concluded. The custody arrangement stands, with modifications as stated. The gavel comes down. And it's over. We won. The room erupts. Lydia is hugging me. My children are crying and laughing and talking over each other, and somewhere in the chaos, I realize I'm crying too. We won. Damien stands abruptly, his chair scraping loudly. He looks at me with such hatred that it should frighten me, but I'm not frightened anymore. This isn't over, he says quietly, meant only for me. Yes, I tell him. It is. You lost, Damien. Not just this hearing, but the war you've been fighting with yourself. The one where you convince yourself that rejecting me was justified, that I deserved it, that you made the right choice. I smile, and it's genuine. But looking at you now, seeing how much energy you've spent trying to destroy me, I realize something. I'm the one who got free. You're still chained to hatred and regret, and you'll stay chained for the rest of your life while I go home to my family and live. I turn away from him, gathering my children, and walk out of the regional council building into the afternoon sunlight. Outside, Sage is waiting. When she sees our faces, she whoops with joy. You did it, she says, pulling me into a crushing hug. You actually did it. We did it, I correct, including everyone in my gaze. All of us together. Epilogue. 6 months later. The garden is Lyric's pride and joy. She spent 6 months coaxing life from the soil around our house, and now, in the early summer, everything is blooming. Tomatoes and peppers and herbs in neat rows, flowers along the edges, roses and daisies, and something purple she called lavender. I'm sitting on the back porch with a cup of coffee, watching her work, when Regina emerges from the woods on the northern edge of our property. He's been training with a mentor. Elder Meredith arranged an old nightshade wolf who survived his pack's collapse and now lives as a rogue. The man is teaching Regina everything about his heritage, his bloodline, the strength and shadow that defines who he is. My son is growing into his power, and it's both beautiful and terrifying to watch. Mom. Thalia calls from upstairs. Can Ezra and I go to the bloodline gathering next month? If you finish your schoolwork first, I call back. The bloodline gatherings have been good for them, chances to meet other wolves from ancient lines, to connect with their heritage in ways I could never provide. Thalia has found 3 other Emberfell survivors, and they've formed a small group that meets virtually between gatherings. Ezra has connected with a moonborn historian, who's teaching him the old languages. They're building their own support networks, their own understanding of who they are beyond our family. And that's good. That's healthy. But they always come home. Mail's here, Lyric announces, jogging up from the mailbox at the end of our long driveway. She hands me a stack of envelopes, most of them junk, but one catches my eye. It's from Rebecca. I open it carefully, pulling out a handwritten letter on expensive stationery. Dear Ruth, I'm writing to let you know that I've left Damien, filed for divorce, claimed my pups, and moved to my father's territory in the east. It wasn't easy, and the legal battle is ongoing, but I couldn't stay anymore. Not after watching you fight so hard for your family while I sat by and let mine turn into a gilded cage. You showed me what strength looks like. Real strength, not the performative kind that alphas display, but the quiet, persistent kind that shows up day after day, even when the world says you're not enough. I don't know if we'll ever be friends. I don't expect forgiveness for staying silent while he tried to destroy you, but I wanted you to know that your example mattered, that watching you choose yourself and your children gave me the courage to do the same. Thank you for that. And congratulations on your victory. You deserved it. Rebecca. I fold the letter carefully and tuck it in my pocket. Maybe someday I'll respond. Maybe someday we'll find a way to be allies if not friends. But for now, I'm content to sit on my porch in the home we claimed, surrounded by the ward lights that pulse with our combined heartbeats, watching my children grow into themselves. Regina, practicing his dominance with a mentor who respects rather than fears his power. Lyric, coaxing life from soil, and proving that strength comes in many forms. Ezra, diving deep into books and history, building understanding from knowledge. Thalia, learning to control her fire while staying true to the passion that makes her burn bright. And me, no longer the broken, rejected Luna, but simply Mom, imperfect, overwhelmed, making it up as I go, but showing up, always showing up. Mom! Regina calls from the edge of the forest. Come see what I learned. I set down my coffee and walk across the yard to where my children are gathering. Whatever Regina wants to show us, it'll probably be impressive and slightly terrifying, but we'll handle it together, the way we always do, the way we always will, because we're family not by blood or bonds or fate, but by choice. And that's the strongest magic of all.